Calling to order Board of Education meeting for Sacramento Unified School District. See if we can do it. I'm glad to not be the last person coming up here this time. Remember, Bill, I'm gonna just say it because you give me a hard time usually when I'm the last one. No, it's all good. Just like any great students, 2 students come in late at a time. It works out well. Okay, so we're gonna start off with our Pledge of Allegiance. Will you please stand?
Thank you. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Student item 4.2, student broadcast statement.
This meeting of the Sacramento City School Board is being recorded in its entirety and will be cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government fare channel on Comcast, Constellated Communication, and AT&T Uverse. Today's meeting will air Sunday, January 22nd at 9 a.m. and Monday, January 23rd at 12 p.m. It would also be webcast at metro14live.saccounty.net and can be viewed on Metro Cable 14 YouTube channel. We welcome members of the audience to address the board. Please complete a speaker form located in the back of the community room and give them to our communications representative, along with any handouts you may have for the board prior to the conclusion of the item's presentation. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Please limit comments during public comment to items that are not on the agenda. If you do comment on an item that is on the agenda, we will ask you to please defer your comments until the item comes up on the agenda. Please turn off your cell phones or place them on silent or vibrate.
Thank you very much. Item 4.3, Stellar Student, presented by Board Member Pritchett.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of honoring Karina tonight. Karina, would you like to come up to the podium? I have a little something from your teacher that she wrote for you. According to Karina's 5th grade teacher, Mr. Lupercio, Karina is a stellar student and a kind-hearted individual. In my class, I have seen her go an extra mile in both academics and kindness. She constantly makes strong efforts and volunteers to help with any task. I am thankful for Karina's contributions to our class, such as her positive attitude, her attention to detail, and her friendly demeanor. She is also responsible for writing our daily agenda on the whiteboard every morning and running the office errands when needed. She has those responsibilities because I know I can trust her. I can't say enough good things about Karina. Congratulations, Karina. Would you like to say a few words?
Go ahead. And then,
I want to thank my parents and my teachers for helping me to come to this today.
beautiful. Bart, if we can take a picture, and Mom, if you would like to come with us to take a picture as well, that would be great. Jesse.
just gonna rub me like that? Thank you. Is that microphone on?
It is now. Okay. Item 5.0, announcements of action taken in closed session.
Good evening, President Rhodes. There are 3 announcements coming out of closed session this evening. First, the board approved a special education settlement agreement identified as OAH case number 2022-100335 by a vote of 7-0. The other 2 announcements will come from the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Collins. I have 2 announcements to make. We're very excited about it. The first is that by a vote of 7-0, the board approved the appointment of Mr. Aaron Bitchell as principal of our School of Engineering and Sciences. Congratulations, Mr. Bitchell. The second announcement, also by a vote of 7-0, our board approved the appointment of Mr. Ignacio Zarate as principal of Sam Brannan Middle School. Congratulations, Mr. Zarate.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. Item 6.0, agenda adoption. And so moved. Second. All that, say aye. All that agree? Aye. Aye. All right. Item 7.0, public comment. Do we have any public comment this evening?
We do. First speaker will be Bernie Evangelista, followed by Cassandra Wills, and then Dominique Chadwick.
Hello, Ms. Evangelista. You have 2 minutes.
As a school principal for the California Montessori Project for the past 16 years, and as an independent charter school. We currently have about 348 students in a TK through 8th grade. So I just wanted to share that, and I hope you all have a happy new year and a good year ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, new board members, old board members, and once again, I like to just say welcome to you guys, the new ones. Mr. Aguilar, good evening. As you know, my name is Cassandra Wills, and I am a school bus driver here at Sac City, 27 years and plus, pushing. I hope to continue. And I come to you guys tonight just expressing, the things that we have going on over at Transportation. I don't want to throw out any numbers or anything like that, but I would just like to say I would like to continue my job. I would like to continue and give my dedication to Sac City and drive those school buses and get those kids, picked up safely to school, home each and every day. And I'm just hopefully, we can come to some kind of agreement and get a livable wage. It's sad for me to say I'm 27 years here and someone coming in 5 years is making the same amount that I am. And at the same time, they're contracting routes out where they're getting $800 a day and I'm getting 100 and something. Like, that's just so unheard of. I just you know, please have some compassion for us. Please, understand what it is that we do each and every day, not just for us, for the parents, for the community. And I want to stay here. This is home for me. This is home for me. I love what I do. I love these children, and there was a time I could say, you know what? Someone would say, what are you doing? Oh, I'm happy going to work. I'm happy going to work. And I want that back. I want to see my coworkers come to work smiling, not walking through the hallway upset and angry, or someone saying, I got to move back with my mom because I can't pay my rent, or I can't pay my bill. We just need, we need you guys' help. We need you guys. Honestly, we need your help. I know my time is up. Please, you guys, have some compassion for us.
My name is Dominique Chadwick. I'm also a bus driver. As you can see, as my sweatshirt says, it's something that we shouldn't have to say. But unfortunately, it's something that we have to say. Bus drivers' lives matter. We can all agree that it's very important to show up. Like a lot of us, we showed up. Unfortunately, we seem to be the only ones showing up. The teachers are showing up, the aides are showing up, the bus drivers are showing up. Where's the district? Where are they? Because they're not showing up. And at the end of the day, not only does it hurt us, even though we keep showing up, the kids are the ones losing. They don't have enough drivers, they don't have teachers, they don't have aides, but yet we can't even solve those problems because this district is not showing up. You know what happens when I don't come to work? When I come back to work, my kids say, hey, where were you? No one came to pick us up because we do not have enough drivers. We don't have enough people to fulfill the job that we should be able to do. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be an issue because it keeps being put on the back burner. And I'm not understanding why. Like, what else is it going to take? Is it going to take for no one to show up? Because at the end of the day, we show up for these kids, and these kids are noticing that we're not showing up. The kids are seeing that teachers are not showing up, drivers are not showing up. But at the end of the day, if they can really understand the whole concept of what's going on, and we tell them, well, we're showing up as best we can, it's the district that's not showing up. They don't understand that. But I know you guys understand that. And we need you guys to put this in full effect because we're losing drivers every day. We're down to what you see is about 1/3 of what we have left. And you guys are okay with contracting out, paying more money to do it that way. That's not going to get the job done. We cover special ed. Most of the kids are special ed. Put them in a van. I'd love to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next group of speakers, Dale Brown, followed by Kia Daniels, Larry Witherspoon, and Esther Gonzalez.
Are they here?
All right, Kia.
Hello, Kia.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Rakia Daniels, and I do work for transportation. I would like to give my 2 minutes up to someone. Who would like to? I'll give it to Olivia.
Good evening, board members. I'm here one more time. So I've been here since I was 23, so now I'm 50, and I'm coming with the same thing. I would like to retire with a raise and also with more money, with, to be able to survive when I retire. I don't want to be coming back at 65 and still work. Also, I'm here for these kids. Nowadays, these kids, they're already older, and I be transporting their kids. And now they say, bus driver, you still here? Bus driver, I want to be a bus driver. How much you get paid? $20 an hour. Bus driver, why you still here? Move out somewhere else. I don't want to start another job. And they're asking me, bus driver, I want to be a bus driver. These little kids, I say, don't be a bus driver. Find something else, because bus drivers, We don't even get respect for no one, not even for our district. I'm not asking you for you guys to pay me with all my respect, what Mr. Aguilar is getting paid. I would like to get a decent pay to be able to survive. Also, I would like for our new generation of bus drivers to feel happy and be proud and say, I'm a school bus driver and I work for Sac City Unified School District and we are the capital of Sacramento. I don't want to say that I work for the Sacramento City Unified School District and I work for the capital and we don't have buses. They break down every day and I get paid only $20. No. I want to be proud what I've been doing. When I first started here, people still ask me, where do you work? Oh, Sac City. And what do you do? I'm a school bus driver. Oh, she's just a school bus driver. Oh, we have to go through a lot. Every 5 years, we have to do a test. If we don't pass this test to switch B, we don't have no job. If you fail that test for three times, you have no job. You have to take care of yourself. You have to don't get sick, because if you go to do your medical every 2 years, if you're with a high blood pressure, or you have diabetes, or you are with something else, you're fired. Our job is not just bus drivers. We have to go through a lot. We have to study hard. Every 5 years, we stress out. There's a lot of co-workers that they fail 3 times, and they don't hire them back again. Because that's hard for some of us, and that's a lot of stress. So please take care of the new bus drivers that are coming. We need drivers. These kids don't want to be presidents. They want to be teachers. They want to be, but bus driver, they asked me, bus driver, you wasn't here yesterday. I want to be a president. How can I be a president when no one is coming to pick me up? What's going on? That's our future. That's our generation, and that's what we want. I told these kids, tell your daddy to skip work and bring you to school, to be late. If there's no one, make it to school. That's what I told these kids. But it's sad that a lot of people don't want to be bus drivers. RT wants to take us with us. Transit wants all our drivers over there. There's 5 drivers that we will not have no more. We used to be 125 drivers. No, we're only 53. 5 are leaving, and now how many will be left? Only 49. Please, we need our generation of new bus drivers to come and be proud what they're doing. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hello, board members. My name is Dale Brown, and I came here to support my coworkers as well as the district worldwide. I've been hearing my coworkers, transportation bus drivers, just name it. They've been complaining about, how they deserve more than just being a bus driver. We need to be recognized, appreciated, and deserve what everybody else do. And I just, I came here because I want to just express how I feel. I want to make sure that, y'all understand what we're going through. It's not only about the money, but it's what we do every day in, day out. And it's not an easy job. And I appreciate, I really do. I love the kids. I love who I work with. But it just seems like nobody seems to care about transportation. And we just want to just let everybody hear what we're going through. Some people have to work 2 jobs. We're losing a lot of drivers as of the end of this month, 5 drivers, because they can't afford to keep doing what we do. And I just came here just from my heart, to hopefully that somebody would understand us and hear us and feel some of our heartaches and just what we can't afford to do anymore. So, not going to talk much because I'm a little nervous. But thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Next group of speakers, Olivia Miner, followed by Angelia Spagner, Yesenia Ramirez, Linda Smith, and Jean Shanley.
Good evening, board members. My name is Olivia Miner. Some of you might know me. Some of you I volunteered to walk for your campaign. We are here today to bring to your attention some of our concerns that we have in our department. And it just so happens that you are the only ones that can help us fix it. We have 5 drivers, as you have heard, that are leaving this department by the end of this month. We will be losing them to other companies due to pay. These drivers can't continue to provide for their family and keep a roof over their heads. They've been loyal to this district, but being loyal to this district is no longer an option. Working for the community that you live and you love will no longer work. This means we will have to contract all these routes out. The cost of contracting out these routes per student is enormous. If you don't know, maybe it's time for you to investigate how much money you're actually pouring out of this community into contracting out these students. The cost of all the students that we are contracting out has not been questioned. But when it comes to questioning, why do these drivers deserve a raise, there's ever excuse on the book to say we can't afford it. We are not asking for something that they have not worked for. Drivers can't take it anymore because they are already doubling and tripling to make transportation work. For too long, we have told the board members that this department has been stripped to bones. There is no bones left. It's spirit. If you don't take action now, there will be no transportation department at all. All I'm asking you is that you start to treat our drivers with loyalty and respect. Stop treating us like disposable items. Our drivers have dedicated their life to this district. They have been here, and they have actually driven generations and generations of children into school. I know when you look at the numbers, it's a lot. But can you continue to contract out all the students and lose this department? You are investing not only into drivers, you're investing into the community. A lot of our workers actually have children, their grandparents. It is a shame for me to understand and to think that maybe one day, when some of my co-fellow workers actually retire, I will be looking at them living out of their car, living out of tents.
Thank you, Ms. Miner.
They've been loyal to this district. Please appreciate them. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Angelia Spagner. I am a driver. I've been with the district for 31 years. I was 18 when I started. I am 50 years old. I'll be 51 next month. I enjoy my job. I have 5 children of my own, 4 boys that are adults now. And I just want you to know that the rate of pay that we get right now not only affects me, but it affects my children. I want them to be able to go out on their own, get their own places, but as of right now, they feel they have to stay home with me and help me because at my rate of pay, I can't even afford to stay where I'm staying without their help. And that's not good. You know, I'm the parent. I'm supposed to be the breadwinner or whatever. And it's not fair to them. I want them to go out on their own, get their own families, take care of what they need to take care of. And at $21 an hour right now it's just impossible with the inflation, the rate of, cost of living has went up tremendously. Groceries, eggs, they're like $10 now, and It's just impossible. Gas, I have to account for all of that. And it's just reality, and not asking for pity or anything like that. Just, give us what we deserve. We ain't asking for a handout. We actually go and we do the work. We love the kids, and, just have some compassion and some consideration for, bills, electricity. You guys all know. You guys, you pay bills, you pay mortgages and everything like that. That's all I want to do. I don't want a handout. I don't want someone buying groceries for me. I want to do that on my own. And lately, I have not been able to do that. And I just ask that you take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to donate my time to Ms. Linda. Good evening, everybody. My name is Miss Linda. As you heard, that's what the kids call me and everybody calls me. I work for transportation, as you can see. I just wanted to let you all know how hard we work. Our day starts every day at 4 a.m. We get up, we have to clock in at 5:30. Our day starts. We have to pre-trip our buses. We have to clean our buses. We have to make sure those buses work in order for us to pick up our kids. Yes, there are kids. We have to fuel our buses. We have to sweep our buses. We have to disinfect our buses. We have to wipe them down 4 times a day, 5 times a day to keep those kids safe, keep us safe. We buckle our kids in after we pick up our kids. Every morning, we buckle them in our seats. We wipe their noses when they need to be done. We clean up when they get sick on the bus. We treat them as our own. We are responsible for them from the time we pick them up to the time we drop them off at school. When we pick them up at school, we drop them off at home, we are responsible. We have to take care of them. So yes, we need to have more money in order to get more drivers, a lot more drivers. Most of us have worked transportation for over 30 years, and we would just like to have a little respect from all you guys for what we do. Yes, excuse me. I invite each and every one of you guys to come and ride the bus with us one day, one morning, to see how we do what we do every day. Just one day, that's all I ask. So you know exactly what we do every day. Then you'll understand why we're pushing and we're wanting this for so hard. We need the drivers. We are doing 4, 5, and 6 drivers runs every day, each person. And that's hard, but we do it. And we will continue to do it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Brian, do we have...
Gene Shanley is the next speaker.
Good evening. So tonight I wanted to talk to you about product liability claims, because it's kind of a specialized area and not a lot of people really know a lot about product liability. So this is something that I worked on earlier in my career, so I know a little bit about it, I have some personal experience, and I'm also friends with attorneys who still practice in this area who've handled really high-profile cases over the last 20 to 30 years. So I know a little bit about it. So the life of a product liability claim is the first thing you have, obviously, is a dangerous product that's approved and sold on the market. So just looking at drugs, a few years back, a study was done by a reputable institution, and they determined that of all the products that are approved by the FDA, 1/3 of them end up being garbage. They're not safe, they're not effective, and they're thrown off the market for one reason or another. This is before COVID. This is without a high-pressure political maneuvering, that was the way it was before COVID. So they don't have a really good track history at all, and it's a myth that they approve products that are safe and effective. On average, they can't be relied upon to do that. So then the product is sold and then it injures and kills people. That body count needs to be accumulated and records kept about it, and then that information is brought to plaintiffs' lawyers. Then plaintiffs' lawyers take the cases and they bring them to court, or they threaten lawsuits, and then if they win those lawsuits and the lawsuits are strong, then at the very end of that process, they kind of strong-arm the FDA to take it off the market. So with COVID, this system is completely dismantled, right? Because with the EUA status, they took those lawsuits and threw them right out the window. And that was the only way you could really get a dangerous product addressed, and the market kept safe for people. And once the EUA expires, then the manufacturer will be liable unless they can push that vaccine onto the childhood schedule, right? So with EUA status, the manufacturer's been completely liability-free, and that's why, and there's no FDA approval, and that's why the CDC recently, there was a push, political maneuvering, to push the non-FDA-approved COVID vaccines onto the childhood schedule so that they wouldn't be liable and there'd be no lawsuits. And we know that the system works, as there's no lawsuits, there's nothing that's really done about it. And so this was an unprecedented move by the CDC to recommend this for the childhood schedule. And it could be misinterpreted as a sign of like strength, but actually it's a sign of pretty serious desperation. Because if you can't get FDA approval, which is already a marginally reliable organization to keep products safe, and you can't even get that approval, that you have to do an end run around it and throw it onto the market through the CDC, childhood schedule, it's not a good sign. So this is January 2023, and we're headed into a year of a lot of volatile activity around this whole issue. You guys still have this COVID mandate requirement on the books, even though it's been ruled illegal by the courts in California. I've asked you to take it off so that the community is not confused. So I just want to reiterate that request, that you take it off the market, and we'll see what happens as 2023 rolls out and they try to push the vaccine with no FDA approval. All right, thanks so much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Next group of speakers, Trung Lee, followed by Rose Alston, and then John Borsos, who has yielded his time to Damian Harmony.
Hello, my name is Rose, and I'll be very quick. I'm not asking for anything. What I'm asking for is answers. I don't understand the purpose of the strike that we had last year. There has been zero results in our pockets. Nothing has been done. I keep hearing constantly about attendance. Attendance is so important. Attendance is very important. However, in order for us to make a difference between living and surviving, almost all of us have to work ridiculous hours at nighttime, over the weekends. We have to do everything to supplement. I've been here 19 years. It makes no sense to be embarrassed to fill out an application for any type of home loans, car loans, anything. No matter what we do, everything else can line up until we show them our paycheck stubs or until we show them what we make a year, and then we're laughed out of the office. I think that it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful of us as human beings. It's disrespectful of us as bus drivers. It's disrespectful, period, to have put in all the work that we have put in to this district, and we're still at the last of the totem pole of making any changes or making anything happen. It makes no sense. So I'm not asking, can you please do something? I'm asking to keep your word. Treat us the way you want to be treated when you walk in, go to work every single day, you clock out every single day. None of you guys are here at 4:30 in the morning. I guarantee you that. Please keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Trung Lee. Okay. John Borsos yielded to Damian Harmony. Harmony gets 4 minutes.
We good? I'm going to give you something that my students no longer have access to, and that's a Latin lesson. The word satisfactory comes from the Latin word satis, which means enough. In the last year, from November to November, 2021-2022, Superintendent Aguilar has presided over the following. He reached his 24th PERB hearing in that time. He presided over the long COVID of 3 employees. He's keeping tens of millions of dollars from reaching students, bungling COVID leave for employees, so much so that people have not gotten paid yet. We're still working through that. Bungling the sub situation by not streamlining the process to undo the whoopsie from the previous year that kicked a third of our subs off the rolls. Cramming up to 17 classes into an auditorium during multiple spikes during COVID. Delaying and prolonging contract negotiations for so long that his intransigence caused a strike for 8 days. Refusing to negotiate to fix the hole in students' school year last year, caused by the strike that he caused, costing an additional $47 million to the district. Don't worry, we had the reserves for it. Elongating the per diem process, withholding wages for the summer work, bungling COVID leave so as to delay pay for even the subs. Holding back payment of the monies y'all removed for the 403B payments until just a few weeks ago. No new textbooks for so many subjects. Stiffing our local luthiers and music vendors so that our instruments don't get fixed. Same for our music librarian. Continued staffing shortages so that my juniors have had 2 straight years of subs in multiple subjects. The death of the only Latin program in the district. Class sizes over and above their limits so that IEPs are well past due, teachers are overworked, and don't worry, they do get paid their overages, but then you just stack in more and more. Gotten no confidence votes from 90% of the employees in this district. And now negotiations are delayed for 2 months. I'll come back to the lesson because that's how we do it in teaching. Satis means enough. And I think that is the only way we could read satisfactory, is that he has run amok enough. Enough is enough, and it is time for a change. We do not need unanimous votes from 3 people who are no longer here, 4 people who are here, one who's absent today, who thought that all of that was satisfactory. I don't know what it would take to get less than satisfactory. I genuinely have to scratch my head and wonder really hard, and I've studied medieval torture for years. I do not know what it would take to get this man not satisfactory. Because good Lord, look at what you think is enough. I agree, it's enough. Thank you. I'm yielding my time to Ingrid.
Next speaker is David Fisher, who's yielded his time to Ingrid Hutchins. Ms. Hutchins has 4 minutes, and then after that is Stacy Willette, who's yielded her time to Anna Mestudio for 4 minutes.
I'm sorry, I have 5 minutes and 1 second.
Fair enough.
All right, first of all, I'm sorry to get up right after Damien because his list was much more thorough than mine. But good evening. First, I want to say how happy I am to see the new trustees on our board. We have needed big changes, and we needed the right people in place to make those changes occur. While you're finding your personal identity in your role as our trustee, I'd like you to forge your own path. You've all made the decision to join our board because you have watched our old board make decisions that have had a negative impact on our students and schools. Don't let the old guard sway you from making the changes you know we need. Don't let anyone pressure you into unanimous votes to maintain some appearance they foolishly think is important. Your work is far more critical than the frivolity of appearing to agree with one another. No one elected their trustee to a social club. The voters expect you to work for their to the best interest of their community. They don't care whether or not you feel like the person seated next to you feels like a family or friend. I hope you shake things up. Do as Aguilar claimed he would do. Interrupt the inequitable system. Become a disruptor. Understand, though, that this board is a cog in that inequitable system, and the disruption does start with you. Ask your 4 old guard colleagues to explain to you, and hopefully to all of us, how they gave Aguilar a satisfactory rating on his latest evaluation. What were the metrics they used? What proof can they present to us for their scores? The definition of satisfactory is fulfilling expectations or needs, or acceptable. Please keep that definition in mind as I ask you the following questions. Is it satisfactory to have the 2 largest unions in the district go on strike for a total of 8 days? Students went without school while he avoided the inevitable. Why didn't he prevent a strike by working with the labor unions? Why did he let it drag on for so long? Why was he willing to waste $46 million instead of meeting with SCTA and SEIU to negotiate the extra days needed to make up for the loss of learning? Why didn't he attend any of our negotiations? He was invited to every single one. His absence made the process tedious and slow, yet he never cared enough to take the time to show up. Why does he continuously break labor laws? Since he's been in our district, SCTA has filed 24 PERB complaints. What has he done to improve his relationship with any of the employee unions? How can he lead if he can't collaborate? Why does he continuously postpone the district's plan to sunshine its proposal for reopener negotiations? Seems like labor relations continues to be unimportant. Why didn't he take over classes instead of stuffing students into auditoriums when they didn't have a teacher to educate them? Many superintendents around our country did. I watched the video the board made on November 10th to discuss Aguilar's satisfactory rating. Villa based her reasoning on the extra hours he works both at night and on the weekends. I want to point out that every single teacher in this district puts in those extra hours as well for a lot less than $400,000 a year. Amen. We need a better reason than that for giving him a satisfactory mark. Board members, while you are continuing to allow Aguilar to add to his contracted years with us, while refusing to hold him accountable, we are slowly bleeding out staff. I believe we're about to lose 5 more bus drivers who are just fed up. We don't have enough custodial staff, so many custodians and plant managers are working overtime and they aren't getting paid in a timely manner. Now we've just sent Jake Hansen to travel to the Philippines because we can't find enough teachers who want to work for our district. We have to do better, which means you have to do better. He is your employee. Hold him accountable. Stop being agreeable. Demand better for the communities you serve. And for goodness sake, start working with us. We have a wealth of knowledge that you all refuse to tap. Aguilar himself said he doesn't know why scores aren't going up. Has he reached out to teachers? No. Cerna Center staff members are wonderful people, but they don't have all the answers because they're no longer in the classroom. Stop relying on them as your sole source of knowledge. And please stop turning to more testing. Testing is not going to change anything for the better. It takes away valuable time from teaching, and it causes the folks in the office to think that they find all the answers within the data. The data is only a measurement. It's not an explanation. It won't tell you why we're not meeting the standards. Ask the people doing the work why the test scores aren't going up. Ask us what we're missing in our classrooms. Ask us what we need to better support our students. Ask us what we think of our curricular materials. Just because you bought it doesn't mean that it's useful. And then give us the time to teach. If you want our district to be great, I believe you all do, you need to tell your employee that you insist on him collaborating with all of your labor partners. Right now, the biggest obstacle to making this a destination district is the superintendent and the board that enables him. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy. Good evening.
Good evening. Congratulations to the new board members, especially Mr. Kayata. I live in your area, and I was the only home along Florin Road that displayed your signage very proudly. My name is Mestudio. I'm a resource specialist from Luther Burbank High School. My 2 children graduated from SCUSD schools. My eldest is a Titan, and my second is a Cougar. I came to the United States in 1998. I was recruited from the Philippines. There were 4 of us, and I'm happy to tell you that we are all still here. However, that is not the case for the teachers that the district recruited in 2016 and 2017. These teachers had to go home because of their visa restrictions, a visa that is not supposed to be used for employment. They were recruited through an agency that charges them close to $18,000. That is 645,000 Philippine pesos for the American dream. I have nothing against these teachers who want to come over. I did that. I went through that. And I helped these teachers who came after me and continuing to help them now while they're in the Philippines. But what frustrates me is the process of the recruitment. Have the district not learned from the past 2 groups of teachers who are now back in the Philippines? Here's my wish list. The district has a few teachers who came from the Philippines like myself and a few others. Why not use us as a resource? Be upfront with the credentialing requirements and the approximate amount that they need to fulfill these requirements. What are the expectations or timeline to fulfill the said requirements, and what are the consequences if they do not? From the 2 past groups, we had a few who were sent home after a year or 2 because they did not pass the CBEST. I know that CBEST is not required now, but that's what happened with them. And that's the best segue for my final wish. Practice test, may it be CSET, RICA, or whatever else test. Use it as a tool to filter applicants. I took the CBEST while I was in the Philippines. My recruiter only arranged interviews for those who passed. Practice tests can be used the same way. Board members, I am asking transparency when recruiting from out of the country. It is unfair to those teachers to be blindsided. They are 1,000 miles away from their home, and culture shock is real. I'm asking the district to be a decent human being, because this thing that you call recruitment feels like illegal human trafficking. Thank you.
Next, we have Jose Galvez Martinez, followed by Nate Alexander and Manuel Jimenez, and I can't make it. Durazo is the last name, but I can't make out the first name. I apologize. Deborah Durazo.
Hello, sir. Hello, my name is Jose Galvez, and I've been here for 15 years working on transportation. I'm here to support my brothers and sisters of transportation. And I just want to tell you, believe me, inflation is killing us. We need better pay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is William Nate Alexander. I've only been in California for 2 years. I have a son I raised by myself that has autism. He's 27 years old now. I just celebrated 1 year working for Sac City on the 3rd of this month. And I just want to reiterate what all the other drivers have said. You have to take the main thing into consideration, okay? Having a kid with autism, you don't know what it's like for these kids. Every time a new person pulls up in front of their house to pick them up, or they get to school 2 or 3 hours late. I had COVID for a week, and when I got back to school, my kids were like, wow, I didn't even make it to school, you know? That's a terrible way for a kid to start a day like that. You know, these kids have to have routine, and when you mess up their routine, you mess up their whole day. So I'm standing on behalf of all the other drivers here, 20 years, 30 years. These people love what they do, and they love these children. And when you contract this work out, these are just people with a job that's picking these kids up and taking them off, and they're not showing them any love or anything else. So I'm just asking you guys to do what you know what you need to do already. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Who's next? Deborah Durazo and Manuel Jimenez.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Deborah Durazo. I am also here tonight to support our transportation department. I am not a bus driver, but I'm here to support them as the SEIU chapter secretary. As you can see or hear, how many, all the years of service, 18, 30, 31, 25, you have over 100 years of service dedicated to this district. They also mentioned their numbers. Years ago, I don't know how many years ago, but many years ago, they had probably 130, 120 bus drivers. They're down to less than 50 almost by the end of the month. This group that are here tonight are dedicated, clearly. They are asking for what they deserve. Their years of dedication to this district, to the students, they are hard workers. Mr. Aguilar, no offense, but you probably can take 10, 20 of them, combine their income, and they still probably do not make what you make, sir, in 1 year. And for them to have to worry about how they're going to pay their rent, how are they going to buy groceries for the month, for the week, once they get paid? How do they make that one paycheck last for the month? They have to go out and get a second job. Their routes are split, so they'll have some time in between and then the time in the afternoon. But as their group gets smaller and smaller, they're working more and more, and yet they're still only compensated. They're compensated for their time, but obviously overtime or per diem. And it just isn't, it isn't working for them. They're here tonight fighting for compensation that will help them get to a level of decency, living decently. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Martinez.
My name is Manuel Jimenez. Good evening, board members. Welcome, new board members. I didn't know what was going on with the labor situation. I support all you guys. My son constantly asks why he doesn't get to ride a bus to school, honestly. So I know a living wage, I'm sure, is important to all of you. And as a community, we need to work towards making that a reality. We also can't fall back on shutting school down as happened last year. And that had a devastating effect on a lot of families. It kind of took the wind out of everyone's sail trying to get back from COVID. The reason why I wanted to speak this evening is, again, on the masking issue. It was hard for my family going through COVID, as it was for a lot of you guys, a lot of families. The mask issue, we don't do well with masks. I don't relate well to people with masks. It's not a human interaction to me. COVID was terrible. It was a once in a 500-year event. We've gotten through it. Right now, we have, we have flus that kill probably 30 or 40,000 people a year in this country. Now we have COVID that kills about 100,000. So that's terrible. It's not my family's responsibility to wear a mask to try to bring those numbers down. There's many measures that everyone can do. You can get vaccinated. You can wear a mask yourself. You can avoid crowded areas. And a mask mandate on children, I don't think is the right takeaway for the situation we're in right now. It's just, it doesn't fit. I look out what everyone else in Sacramento is doing and the way they're conducting their lives. And I think people have chosen community, chosen human interactions, chosen to be able to see each other and to take the risks. And the risks are there, and we're all responsible for our own lives. And we have measures to take risks. It's unfair to ask children to take the risks that other people can mitigate themselves.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We have two speakers who've yielded their time to April Ibarra. So April Ibarra gets 6 minutes.
Welcome, April.
I haven't even got up here. You already started the clock. Good evening, board members and superintendent. April here. I think by this time, everyone on the board knows me. So I want to start off with, I don't know if you guys are aware, but as of today, there's approximately 126 vacancies still in the district. And we are halfway through the year next week. That is concerning for me. And I just want to say that social media is not how you recruit employees. You need to get out there in the workforce is in demand, and the people getting the employees are out there recruiting in person, not through social media. With that said, I want to bring up the topic of special ed. There is absolutely no equity when it comes to special ed. My daughter was diagnosed with ADHD a couple of years ago. Last school year, she was at Wilsey Wood. September, I requested an IEP. I was met with an ST. Weeks later, they were supposed to follow up with me, and I didn't get a phone call until April saying that my daughter needed to catch up on all of this work. That is extremely stressful for a child with ADHD. It took me going with a family. I'm an advocate myself, and I had to get a family advocate for them to understand that I mean business. They said the district needs 60 days to be able to do testing, but we didn't have 60 days left in the school year. I trusted that we would pick up in the beginning of the school year, and guess what? The district failed my daughter once again, so she had to start over. Literally, in December, far past the 60 days, it took a retired special ed teacher who decided to come back and help out a little bit to give me a call and hear my frustration and say, I will take care of this. I got a phone call the next day, and thankfully, last week, I was able to close an IEP for my daughter. But you know what's concerning? She's supposed to have co-teaching. And I asked her today how classes are going, and she doesn't even have an instructional aide, which I was told, if there is no teacher, she'll have that at the minimum. That is not equity. You are failing my daughter. What's going to happen when she gets to 12th grade? I can tell you. She's going to be pushed out into credit recovery, probably not be able to catch up because of her ADHD, and she will be a statistic, which I am going to fight to make sure that doesn't happen. But it's the reality for the many kids who don't have someone like me to fight for them. So I'm going to fight for them. My daughter is not a numerator. Mr. Aguilar, when you came to the district, you made it clear that you would see our children as more than just a numerator when you talked about data. I came to many of your presentations and meetings, but that's how my kids have been treated, and it's not fair. I want to know why the security campus monitor position was removed from Hiram Johnson when we keep coming up here and telling you we need more security. That is crazy. And if you're unaware of that, that's even more crazy to me. Why are we not initiating conversations with the labor unions to create a plan for recruiting and retaining? You don't need them to reach out to you, because when they do, most of the time, there's no response for months at a time. The district needs to initiate these conversations because we do not and we cannot afford another strike. But if we have one, the community is going to be loud and clear once again. We need to understand that it's going to take your leader, Mr. Aguilar. That is what they're saying. You are the leader. Initiate those conversations. Stop ignoring the emails. Community schools is another subject. Community schools is not one and done money. Community schools is meant to create a structure so that everybody has a place at the table with equity, to create a culture of inclusivity and equity when it comes to the decision-making in one's community. We are failing to do that. On November 10th, the superintendent was voted Satisfactory. Why? When he couldn't prevent an 8-day strike. No one needs to tell me about it because I spent 3 nights and 4 days here, so I know. And I sat in bargaining for 2 days. For 2 days. And it is ridiculous how bargaining happens. The amount of time you left your labor partners waiting on a response, and they were desperate to get back in their classrooms. You walked away from $47 million. What happened to that money? What happened to, we're going to apply for a waiver or whatever you call it? Where did it go? 3 labor unions had a 90% majority vote of no confidence in the leadership. When are we going to listen to the people that me and many other families entrust our children to every single day? We're more than just numbers on your surveys. We have voices and we express them and we are ignored and we're tired. Stop blaming the unions for your lack of livable wages. I am sick and tired of talking to employees from the district who say, we can't pay because of the labor union, because of bargaining. That's not true. I don't know a labor union leader who's going to say no to livable wages, but I'll tell you what they are going to say no to. The deceit that comes with, we're going to offer you more pay, but these are the conditions. Be transparent because that's what happens in bargaining. Nobody can tell me because I sat in it for 2 days and I got to experience it firsthand. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no more public comment.
Okay. Thank everyone for their comments today. Moving on to item 8.0, Communication Employee Organization Report, SCTA. Mr. Fisher, Ms. Molesky.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Good. Ms. Molesky has some documents for y'all, and we also have a PowerPoint that I think Mr. Heap or somebody has, if we can get that. Appreciate that. All right. So we're going to use our time tonight to give a brief overview of the district's budget in the past and going forward. And I think especially salient in the context of the comments you've already heard about the crisis that's been going on in our district for many years and continues to this day. You can, oh, you haven't? Okay, next slide, go ahead. Okay. In August of 2018, the Sacramento County Office of Education rejected for the first time the Sacramento City School District's budget. Today, both district leaders and the Sacramento County of Education now agree that the finances of the Sacramento City School District are sound. The district's finances have been strong for more than a decade. Sac City has operated with a surplus for 12 of the last 13 years. Since the state introduced the Local Control Funding Formula, LCFF, in 2012-2013, SCSUSD has operated with a surplus in every year except for 2017-18, when the district spent $6 million on unbudgeted vacation buyouts for top administrators and increased the number of unbudgeted administrative positions. The Sac City surpluses have been as followed. Well, you could see them there. Yes. Every year, and some years they're whopping. So, okay, next slide. This slide is an overview of the past several years of Sac City's budgeting practices and a comparison and contrast with two most analogous neighboring districts, Elk Grove Unified and San Juan Unified. Sacramento City, Elk Grove, and San Juan are all large school districts within the Sacramento County. All three are among the 20 largest school districts in the state of California and among the 250 largest school districts in the United States. Of the three, the largest enrollment is Elk Grove, 60,326, followed by Sac City, 38,867, San Juan, 36,883. Accordingly, the Elk Grove budget is roughly 1/3 larger than both Sac City and San Juan. In this slide, you can see a comparison of district revenues. The green are the total revenues, and the blue are the unrestricted revenues. You can see that the Sac City has revenues of approximately $859 million, Elk Grove a little over $1 billion, and San Juan about $705,000. Broken down by student, which is more salient, because of the demographics of each of the districts, Sac City receives the highest revenue per student, $22,117 per student in total revenues per student. The blue is the unrestricted, $10,394. So you can see that in both the total revenues and unrestricted revenues per student, Sac City receives more, and substantially more in some cases, than the surrounding districts. The recent financial performance between 2018-19 to 2021, over the past 4 years, despite repeated statements by the district and the Sacramento County Office of Education representatives that Sac City was on the verge of insolvency, Sac City was the only district that experienced surpluses in each of those 4 years. In contrast, Elk Grove experienced deficits in 2 out of those 4 years. I just want to take a second. You can see how in the years preceding huge surpluses, there's deficit spending. That is how it should look. If you receive a bunch of extra money and you don't spend it, you should spend it on your students. That's what it should look like. San Juan, you can see they broke even in 18-19. 19-20 had a slight deficit. 2021, a surplus, and 21-22, a surplus. On this slide, you can see a side-by-side of each district's financial performance. You can see each year and the surplus and how it adds up to accumulated reserve funds. The 21-22 number for Sac City is adjusted for the booking the $46 million fine that was unnecessary. But you can see that Sac City has accumulated $52 million in the last 4 years, while Elk Grove, $20 million, and San Juan, $24.5 million. It's important to note, Sacramento County Office of Education has not intervened in either Elk Grove or San Juan. Okay, the unrestricted reserve fund. SUSD consistently has inaccurately budgeted their projections. This has led to inflated unrestricted reserve fund, the largest unrestricted reserve fund as an absolute number, $112 million, $466,563. Even in comparison to Elk Grove, $110,692,816, which is a student population 30% higher than Sac City. The only way you end up with this massive reserve is to underpay your employees and underspend on students. That's how you get that. You're not a bank. We should not be seeing this. All 3 districts are required to maintain an unrestricted reserve fund of 2% of total district expenditures, transfers out, and other uses. And all 3 significantly exceed that threshold, with San Juan the highest at 15.3%, Sac City at 14.5%, and Elk Grove at 10.5%. You know the saying, don't tell me about your priorities, show me your budget. I'm not sure any of you would ever articulate that your actual biggest priority is putting money in the bank, but look at the budget and that's what's happening. Current California state law triggers a 10% cap when certain state budget triggers occur. Those conditions have been met for 22-23 and 23-24, and they impact the Sac City budget. SUSD's 2% minimum is currently $15,500,000, and the 10% cap is an estimated $77,500,000. The difference between the 10% and Sac City's current unrestricted reserve fund is $34,996,113. Finally, it is worth noting that since the district's budget was rejected by SCOE in August 2018, it has ended every year with an unrestricted reserve fund that substantially exceeds the 2% minimum required by the state of California. In fact, according to the unaudited actuals, the district has ended each year since then with an unrestricted reserve fund that exceeds 10%. Let's take a look at Sac City's budgeting practices. SUSD's dysfunctional budgeting practices have overshadowed the actual strong financial position. The district's budgeting practices have been universally criticized by the California Fiscal Crisis Management Team, the California State Auditor, as well as other entities that have reviewed the district's finances. 4 years after the fact, the district still has failed to complete the implementation of nearly 1/3 of the process improvements recommended by FCMAT. Moreover, despite the assignment of fiscal advisor to the Sacramento County Office of Education after Sac City's budget was rejected in August 2018, the district inaccurate budget practices have persisted, even while the district's finances remain strong. For example, Even with the fiscal advisory oversight, Sac City failed to include 5 schools in its budget projections, a $25 million mistake. This slide shows budget projections for the past 4 years. It must be noted, in addition to the projections for 1920 and 2021 and 21-22 that were developed with the Sacramento County Office of Education's fiscal advisor, whose cost, approximately $150,000 per year for a part-time advisor plus additional consultants, is being borne by the district. Notably, this analysis does not explore a number of questionable Sac City budgeting decisions, which included allocating tens of millions of dollars in the books and supply line, in the books and supply line item that were never intended to be spent on books and supplies, or pre-funding of employees' post-retirement benefits by millions of dollars more than required by collective bargaining agreements and past practice. Okay, so there you see the original Sac City budgets, the actual surplus, and then you can see the inaccuracies. Adds up to almost $174 million you were off, and your average is almost 14% per year that you've been off on your projections. Additionally, the district's rate of miscalculation is substantially worse in 21-22. Throughout 21-22, district leaders continued to insist that Sac City was on the brink of fiscal insolvency while demanding over $20 million in concessions from certificated and classified educators. The strike settlement resulted not only in the rejection of those concession demands, but new ongoing wage increases and retroactive bonuses that the district had not budgeted for. If the district had been successful in its demand for millions in cost shifting, the surplus in 21-22 would have been $40 million or more. In contrast, both Elk Grove and San Juan are much more accurate in their projections. Here you see the same table with Elk Grove. You see their projections, and they have been off by an average of a little over 3%. Remember, Sac City's projections have been off by almost 14%. And then San Juan's, similar. Nobody's perfect, but a lot closer, a little less than 6% versus Sac City's almost 14%. And you know what? Here's why that's important. The district's poor budgeting practices means that students are denied services that they deserve and are entitled to. For the past several years, based on inaccurate information from both district staff and Sacramento County Office of Education, the board has acted as if they were in a time of austerity rather than a period of prosperity. That prosperity is finally reflected in the District 22-23 first interim budget. For the first time in 4 years, Sac City submitted a budget with a positive certification. In California, when a school district submits a budget, it also includes a certification of status, positive, qualified, or negative. According to the California Department of Education, quote, a positive certification is assigned when the district will meet its financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years. A qualified certification is assigned when the district may not meet its financial obligations for the current or 2 subsequent years, and a negative certification is assigned when a district will be unable to meet its financial obligations for the remainder of the current year or the subsequent fiscal year. Notably, previous Sac City school boards, following the lead of the superintendent, submitted budgets with negative certification throughout 2018, 19, 20, 21, even when the district met the standard for budgets with either qualified or positive certification. The negative role played by Dave Gordon, the Sacramento County Office of Education Superintendent, and his staff must also be pointed out. For example, in March 2021, the Sac City School Board voted by a vote of 4-3 to reverse the superintendent's recommendation of a negative to qualified. SCOE Superintendent Gordon rejected Sac City School Board qualified certification and downgraded the certification to negative, even though Sac City actually met the standard for a positive qualification. As noted, the district ended the 2021 with a $19 million surplus. According to the Sac City 22-23 interim budget report, the district provided the following projections: a $30 million surplus for 22-23, $23.3 million for 23-24, and a $7.5 million for 24-25. See. On January 10th, 2022, the governor unveiled its initial budget for the state, which will have the following estimated impact on Sac City's budget. 23-24, $36.8 million, which is an increase of $13.5 million. 24-25, a $21.1 million surplus, which is an increase of $13.6 million. With Sac City's track record of grossly underestimating its actual performance by an average of $43 million per year over the last 4 years, we can expect an even stronger financial outlook. Today, there are over 125 certificated vacancies in the district, with hundreds more classified staff, resulting in thousands of students being deprived of inadequate education. Not to mention classes that are still unfilled by substitutes after you reduce the substitute pay by 25% from last year. At the last board meeting, new board members spoke of the importance of spending district resources on improving services to students while rejecting calls to grow an even larger reserve fund. By the way, our contract requires sunshining by December. It's unacceptable to be postponing until March board meeting. Voters have clearly indicated their choice for moving the district in a different direction. It's time to move that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have SEIU, Teamsters, TCS, or UPE in the building today who are going to give? SEIU? Hello. That was a really long walk.
Good evening. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for changing the time when the unions get to speak at a decent hour. One, as you see my drivers, they have to get up at 4 in the morning. At least they can come and share their experiences and their concerns and gratitude. Whatever needs to be done, they need to be heard. So I appreciate that very much. The second thing is, we went on a strike. We went on a strike for a reason. And one of those settlements in the strike was to put bus drivers first priority for their salary. This district is once again playing the ping pong game. They come to the table with crappy proposals. They're not even thought out. And then we make a counter, and it takes them days and days and days to come back. They really haven't done much work. They've kicked the can a little bit down the road. And here we're back at crappy proposals. Example, if you have RT making $32 an hour and your drivers are all running out the door to go make that 32 hours an hour because they can't make it anymore, don't come and offer me $21 an hour or $23 an hour because you ain't going to keep those people. They're going to still run. We have babies to feed. We have mortgages and we have all kinds of things, just like all of you do. And quit procrastinating because we're getting nowhere. And the department is getting more and more and more decimated. The morale of that department is in the trash. And Jorge, I'm sorry, but that's a lot to do with you because you lead this district. And you need to make your people that are doing the bargaining for you accountable with real bargaining, not one-sided bargaining. I don't want to hear, oh, but you have longevity in your unit. I don't care. Longevity is what, $500-600 a year? Really? Is that why you're going to give my people only $22 an hour for $500 or $600 a year extra income? Come on now. That's one. Number two, we need to make SEIU's minutes more than 3. You guys want a class and comp study? We're supposed to be at like level 7 in this class and comp study, and we have been at nil since October. Why? Because district can't get their crap together once again and assign the people on the district side. They kept pushing Carla, pushing Carla, pushing Carla. We need to do this. Carla did this. We're still waiting for district to get their crap together so that we can start class and comp because it has not started. Please help the classified guys. We need you. And we're going to hold you accountable. So please do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Carla. TCS, Teamster, UPE. Going once. Going twice. Okay. Do we have any of our district advisory committees? 7.2. District Advisory Committee, Community Advisory Committee, District English Learner Advisory Committee, Student Advisory Council. Oh, my brother, how you doing? Which you're with a lot of groups, so which one are you here representing today?
LCAP.
LCAP. Okay.
Good evening and Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
I'm going to share some notes from, I guess, our interim facilitator, Kathy Morrison. We met on December 12th, but I guess just to give some perspective, I think you guys all know, I think Frank brought it up, or myself. Right now, we're at a point where SCOE has been conducting our meetings or leading our meetings, and coming obviously out of the leadership of Stephen Fong. We had certain expectations in the bar that was set. The last couple meetings have not met that bar, and not of anyone's fault. Stephen was a great facilitator. He was very engaged in the work. But we've met once a month in December and November, whereas we were used to having multiple meetings per month, as well as subcommittee meetings and small group meetings where we got a lot of work done. When we met on December 12th, we had 4 people in the room and an additional 4 members on Zoom, and we had 3 guests as well. We received an MTSS presentation, which was, just a very general MTSS presentation. We had outstanding questions that weren't answered by that presentation. And to that point, at the end of the meeting, when we were asked or what we would take away from that meeting, myself and other committee members said more questions. I know that I don't commit my work to that space to not have questions unanswered. And I asked you guys at this last meeting, if not in that space, then where? If not in this space, then where? It just speaks to processes needing to be refined. But again, that's the way the system is designed, so I wouldn't expect anything less. That's what history has shown me, and the current is continuing to live that out. We did do a DOT exercise to establish priorities as far as how we wanted to prioritize our future time. And the 3 priorities that were uplifted were, addressing learning gaps, especially in the transition from independent study to back in person, credit recovery, as well as behavioral interventions and CTE and pathways. And there were a lot of intersecting and synergized responses, as you might expect. So we did get a virtual introduction to our new LCAP director, who I believe is supposed to start on February 1st. Her name is Crystal Thomas, and I believe she was out of state, which led to some delays and stuff. So hopefully that'll be a breath of fresh air, but also hopefully we as a PAC can continue to uplift our voices and have our communities that we represent better represented in the space. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any of our other advisory committees present and willing to present? We might well call Terrence back up to present for a couple more of them. No, I'm joking with you, Terrence. Okay, no, he's coming back up. No, okay.
I think the last time I presented for BAAB, it's listed as African American Advisory Board, but again, the importance of words. We want to make sure that our committee is inclusive of the entire diaspora of Black people, which is not just people of African descent. So we have labeled ourselves and identify ourselves as the Black African American Advisory Board. I serve as the vice chair. Our chair is Julius Alston. We submitted, also I think last time I was remiss, I did not acknowledge that we have Danny Roleri as our, who's a former principal of Oak Ridge. He's our liaison. So we're continuing to develop a relationship with him. We submitted a bunch of questions that have come from multiple meetings and multiple spaces within our framework to the district. We had them partially answered, but nowhere near, to Mr. Harmony's point, nowhere near satisfactorily. So we continue to wait. I think there was a second delivery of data and information that was supposed to happen, but I don't know if you guys understand the amount of work that we are contributing to this ongoing generational historical pattern of poor outcomes. We are a team, we are a family of volunteers, and without data, especially from a self-proclaimed data-driven district, we cannot do our work. efficiently or effectively, that is respectful of our time and commitment and our sacrifices we make, on behalf of our families and, again, the communities and the students that we represent. To April's point, we are a cross-sectional group of professionals, of parents, of community members, of people with lived experiences that are far more valuable than any numbers can show. We expect the respect from you guys and from staff that meets us where we are and where we're trying to take all scholars who we speak on behalf of. I don't know how many times I've spoken at a board meeting, and I'm probably crossing between personal conversation and my role on the board, but if I don't step out there, then who will? But I've been up here probably at least 100 times. I can count on one of my hands the times I come up for a personal request for one of my children. That is the work that we do. So we acknowledge, the demands on all of us at the school sites, at the board level of staff, at every level of staff. We're all doing more than, the job descriptions entail. I don't know that necessitates any bonus or additional compensation or celebration. It's the work that we all do, but we don't have the data. If we don't have that, we can't do our work. We just ask that we are met with the same level of professionalism that we pour into this work and the same level of heart, compassion, and love that we exhibit every time we meet and get together on behalf of our scholars. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Dun, 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 dun.
Are we allowed to ask questions of our committee reports?
I don't know if that's agendized, so I'll say no.
Okay.
But what we can do is just answer one of the things. Usually, you can connect with them directly, but also in the past we've had board members who were part of the different advisory groups. And so I have a note written down here that we need to assign new board members to advisory groups so they can actually be part of those meetings and then also build with those groups. So I'll be reaching out to you guys also individually around who's going to be appointed to each of the advisory groups. Thank you for the question. Next, we're going to go to our 8.3 student member report.
So I don't have a report, but I do want to touch up on things that we have talked about today during public comment. There was a lot of people coming out, like bus drivers and the Teachers Association and so on and so forth, talking about needing pay raises and not getting what they deserve. And I think that we really need to work on that as a board because as a student, it really does affect us. And I have family members and friends, I guess you can call them, or relationships with my with teachers and the janitors and stuff, and they don't get enough credit. They really don't. I have a teacher who in the morning he'll bring oranges for us, for the kids who don't eat in the morning or don't have enough food. So he does that. And it really does suck because how do I say it? My friend, one of her parents was a lunch lady, and her mom would be there for however long and then come home, pick her up, drop her off at home, and then work, get ready for her next job, and so she won't be able to see her parent for so long. And it really sucked because then that means she didn't get to build any connection with her mom, and so that really sucks that we can't provide our staff with livable wages. We're giving them minimal wage, not livable wages. That's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Item 9.0, special presentation, 9.1, first reading of proposed board policy, visual and performing arts education, Aaron Hansen and Charles I'd say the last name wrong. Yeah. Hello. DeAngelis, that's what I was saying. That I said DeLangelis, and I apologize for that, sir.
Check. Okay, and clicker. Oh, great. Okay, cool. Awesome. All right. Good evening, Superintendent Aguilar, esteemed trustees, and community members of the Sacramento City Unified School District. I am CJ DeAngelis, the District Coordinator for Visual and Performing Arts. I'm here tonight with Brian Stroh and Jennifer Nakayama, who are both teachers, music teachers in our district, and also members of our district arts team, to promote an update, or to propose an update to the board's policy on the visual and performing arts, or VAPA. Over the last year, I have been working very closely with our district and community arts teams to help craft a strategic plan for improving equity and access to arts education in our district. During this process, we realized that the district's current VAPA policy has not been updated in over 20 years. We have come to you tonight with an updated arts policy proposal that will help give direction and purpose to our teams as we complete our strategic arts plan. It is important that the district policy towards the visual and performing arts, A, send a clear and comprehensive statement of belief in the value of arts education programs for all students in TK through 12th grade, and B, generate the sense that the value of the arts are a part of the board's shared vision for our district. Our first slide shows the current 4-sentence VAPA board policy, which was adopted in 2001. Neither of our teams feel that this statement accomplishes these goals. So I'll give it a brief moment if you need to read that. So our teams found that this policy was not specific enough. It does not provide any guidance for making or creating curriculum. It does not include any language for who should be accountable for making sure that the arts policy is implemented. It also does not address social emotional learning, student mental health, or how the arts are part of a well-rounded education. Basically, the current policy amounts to little more than lip service to the arts, but it bears no teeth. So over the course of several meetings, our district and community arts teams went to work at updating this policy. Our district arts team is comprised of 10 SCUSD visual art, music, and theater teachers. And our community arts team represents many different stakeholders from the Sacramento community, including teachers, parents, students, arts nonprofit organizations, business leaders, and representatives from the Sacramento County Office of Education and the Mayor's Office, just to name a few. The proposed policy update was informed and approved by both of these groups. In updating the district's VAPA policy, our teams wanted a policy that was in alignment with both the California Education Code and the new state guidelines for the visual and performing arts that were adopted in 2019. They sought more accountability for arts education across the district and a clear directive on how the district's art programs should be organized and delivered. Additionally, in the wake of a global pandemic that illustrated just how much society depends on the arts and how few students actually have access in school, they wanted language in the board policy that addressed equity and how the arts positively affects the social emotional learning of our students. The resulting proposed board policy update can be found in your board packet, and I also brought extra copies if the board needed. You can just pass down if you've already got it, no worries. We believe that this proposed board policy does send a clear statement of belief in the value of arts education programs for all students in our district. Additionally, it gives guidance and a clear need for a VAPA strategic plan and outlines what needs to be found in that plan in order to create a sequential, comprehensive, standards-based art education for all students. Most importantly, it creates a system and a timeline for accountability for the implementation of a comprehensive district arts plan. With the recent passage of Proposition 28, we believe that SCUSD will finally receive the funding for the arts that it lost over 20 years ago when No Child Left Behind redirected funding for the visual and performing arts programs to core classes, test preparation, and remediation. This proposed board policy is the first step towards preparing all students in SCUSD to be lifelong art and music makers and part of the California creative economy. I thank you for your time and consideration this evening. Myself and my colleagues are here to answer any questions you may have about this proposed policy update.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Board comment? Member Villa.
Just a quick thank you, and just looking through a lot of this verbiage, I just wanted to say it's really specific and really pointing out exactly what is needed, not just putting that, a larger umbrella over it, but you guys really took the time. I'm just looking through this again of removing the variety and being specific, and I think that's really important moving forward, that we have that clear guideline and framework. So, I'm a huge supporter of this, so thank you very much for taking the time, because this is obviously had to be very thought through over time with obviously a lot of ideas and suggestions, and so thank you for that.
Thank you, Member Villa. Member Jean.
This is a first read, so this is kind of a question to process. And what is it you would need from the board about this? What kind of suggestions are you looking for? Questions?
That's an excellent question. This is also my first time proposing something like this to the board.
We get to learn together.
So my understanding is this is the opportunity to request adjustments that you might like to see, or ask questions about why specific verbiage was in here, ask about the process. Basically, you can ask any question regarding this, and if I can't answer, I brought a couple of teachers.
Right, a couple of experts.
These are not my bodyguards. They are experts. Yeah.
So I'll start by saying you're talking to an English teacher here, so some of my questions are just language-based, right? Why did you choose to include the California Ed Code? Because if we're already upheld to that, why put it in our policy?
That's a really good question, and I think so. To be completely honest, it's to call out that specific part of the California Ed Code. And I know that, yes, as educators, we should be aware of that. But a lot of school districts, us included, don't necessarily understand that the Ed Code mandates arts instruction at all levels. And even a lot of arts educators, when you tell them that, they don't know that. And so that's something we specifically wanted to call out in creating this proposal.
So that kind of leads to, I was looking at some of the words like develop a implementation plan, develop a curriculum. And I guess my thought would be, once that's developed, then this policy isn't really needed anymore because it's now in place. So I guess I was a little confused as to it feels like the policy is addressing where we currently are, as opposed to necessarily saying this is what it should be. And I don't know if, maybe look into some legal or some ideas, this is my first time looking at policy. And it's just that's my question of once we've got the implementation plan, we don't need to say that the superintendent needs to keep developing one. We have one, right? So what were your thoughts as you developed this? Is it we're trying to have policy to say this is the direction we need to go, and then we would change the policy once we're there?
So the policy, towards the end of the policy, it does sort of indicate that the arts plan the idea being that the board is giving us sort of a mandate to create this arts plan. And the arts plan itself is meant to be a living document that we will revisit every few years to make sure that it's still in compliance with this policy. Okay. So yes, this does feel very much like a starting point for us, but a lot of that is because as a district, we are so far behind where we should be. We needed to set sort of some baseline for that. But I think, and if you guys want to speak to that, I think that this policy gives us enough room for growth over the next 5, 10, or 15 years to be able to create an arts plan that will actually sort of expand programs in the district. And then, in 20 years when we come back, maybe we'll come back and revise this again. But I feel like looking at a policy every 20 years might be a little too far apart, especially considering that this policy was literally the original policy was adopted months before No Child Left Behind. And We all know how that turned out, so.
Yeah. So I guess my comment would just be, and this would be to all of us, just considering like, it's very common for policy to be written in a passion and a focus, and then it just kind of sits there for how many years until the next passion and focus comes. And that would be my concern, right? Like, how do we take it from that and make this a living, breathing document that really captures who we are and where we're headed? So.
If I could speak to that
Yes,
for just
please.
one moment. As an English teacher,
Yes.
right, my bias is music. I teach at Kennedy. One of the struggles we have as music teachers is grade level and what ed code says. In my piano, choir, and band classes, I have many students who are taking their first ever arts class. So when we say ed code is this, and we have to actually do this, that's what we're saying. So we are at square one. But what's very exciting about this is everyone supports us. We've never been to a meeting where people are like, oh, Sac City, ooh. No, we want you to succeed. We want you to succeed. We have meetings with the mayor and they say they want us to succeed. We have meetings with organizations, they say they want us to succeed. We've put years into this document, myself 6. Yeah, we're at square one. And we want it to grow, we want it to change. We also want it to be a living document so that it can change. Because if things change in the future, we need to adapt and not wait 20 years to adapt. That's the challenge we face in the classroom is our students are frankly so far behind that we need to say ed code at K6 level. We have to go that far back because we're just not there. And fortunately with Prop 28, the funding's coming. The funding is coming. I mean, look at the plan. It's all there. We could truly be one of the leaders in the state in a few years. And I'm not trying to say this because I'm on the team. We could be there. And this plan lays a solid groundwork for us to get started for at least the first 3 to 5 years. And then in 3 to 5 years, we come back to it. Because we'll have more steps to do then, especially if we grow the way we could. Very exciting. Very, very exciting. So good luck getting through the documents, but it's very exciting.
All right, I think that's everything. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Member Singh.
I'm a little slow today. Thank you. Just a couple of questions. That answers some questions, so thank you, Tara, for asking those. My question is, what in this document is addressing the immediate need, or have we thought about the immediate need? I'll give you an example. I just did a school tour of one of the schools in my area, and there's an excitement around music, and I'm not going to play the guessing game. I don't want everybody to play the guessing game, but I play the guessing game on how many times those kids get music. We're looking at the ed code here. Those children get music once a month. You get one class of music a month. I mean, I know a couple of instruments. You can't remember whatever you learned a month ago, right? After, so you're getting music, 12 times in a whole year, right? That's if you were actually there during summer school or something. My point is, are we addressing that in this? Because I do read higher qualified and credential visual arts teachers, supporting a position. I'm saying that we do have people who are willing who can switch from that part-time position to a full-time position tomorrow if they had the opportunity. Are we able to address that in this policy or this proposal at all? Or have you guys thought about addressing that portion?
So the policy proposal, I consider it to be sort of like it gives us the basic building blocks to be able to do exactly what you're describing, which is expand programs. Ideally, the next time I come before you, it's going to be with a large document that is the plan for being able to offer music. I don't want to speak necessarily to that plan, but it's got everything in that we need to expand music and art for all of our students to be having it at least once a week. And so this particular policy, again, is like step one that just says, here's what we want to have in place. And then it comes back to us as this district arts team, and we we've been already sort of doing this. We're a little out of order. When we come back to you, we have this plan, and then we look at the plan and say, does this address those things that in your individual districts are those the problems? So yes and no.
Yeah, and I just asked that from an equity perspective. I know there are students or schools that do get music more than other schools.
Yes.
And visiting schools in my area, knowing that some schools have music once a month, some probably have it at once a week, to really prioritize those and see if you can create that priority into these documents so that we ensure that we're not waiting 4 or 5 years by the time those kids reach high school and they're picking up the instrument for the first time, that they've actually had some practice, and you might have an easier time teaching them too. So thank you.
And I can say that the driving factor behind this entire plan is equity. Like that is the number one guiding principle that we are using, both incorporating into this board policy update and also the plan in general is like, how do we make it equitable for every student in the district so that no matter what school you go to in the district, once you get to Brian or Jennifer, you have a base set of skills and you can be in band or choir or orchestra or guitar. And from that, we can expand programs. Yeah.
Member Kayada.
Definitely support this, and I want you all to be successful. I want to address something that Member Jean said about this being a living document and the board being able to provide you with the tools you need to succeed with this. Please don't be afraid, and I'm speaking for myself, but I hope the board will join me. Please don't be afraid to bring this policy back if, as you're working on the plan, it turns out you need some other direction, you need some other support. I'm an attorney who writes things like this, so it doesn't scare me to modify these if we need to. We shouldn't have to wait a decade to come back. So I hope that addresses your concerns, Member Jean, but it is a very good policy. It's written, with a purpose statement, with implementation plans and with follow through, which is great. So it looks like it shouldn't need an immediate update, but if it does, bring it back. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Phillips.
As an adult who started music at grade 2, it is very, very important that we make sure that we address those gaps. Because I got to the 6th grade, I hit middle school, there was nothing. And so we want to make sure that we don't have that learning loss that also, touches our students. So yay band, yay choir, yay keyboard and guitar. But I just want to make sure that kind of we all see the human element in what these children learn. And as a student with a learning disability, the only thing that got me through was my music. So we'll be obviously creating a lot more equitable situations for our students just through music. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Thank you.
Okay, and so for this, CJ, this is a beautiful document and the possibilities. I love this building out the strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And how we are going to implement and change. Member Singh talked about his area and doing a tour at the school site and students getting some type of arts and music once a week. I can tell you right now, in my area 5, we have Burbank, huge comprehensive high school, no music program at all. Yep. Comparatively to a Kennedy or a McClatchy High School. And those inequities are seen across our district. And I would hope by having a strategic plan that we can start building in equitable access and outcomes for our students, along with them getting this equity at a younger age that helps foster their learning experience in other parts of their educational experience as math and science. All these things kind of interconnect. And also they have opportunities. I'm a student of the district, right? I went to the Sacramento Unified School District, and I remember Miss Newsom at Bret Harte Elementary School. And I literally remember having arts and music class. I remember learning the song De Colores. De colores que viste en los campos de la primavera. I still remember the song.
It's still there.
It's since I was in 5th grade. So these type of things gain love of language as well. The reason I speak Spanish now as an African American man is because I found interest in what this is at an early age through art and music. So all these things to be said, I'm interested in seeing the plan. I thank you for bringing forward the policy that puts a mandate forward to make the plan so then we can implement and the bureaucracy of things, right? Doom, doom, doom. But this shows that we're moving in that direction, and I appreciate that, and I look forward for you guys coming back with more. Thank you.
Okay.
If that's all, this is an informational item, and we will go to our next item. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next one we have up is 9.2, Wide Open Walls Update, Nicole and Nathaniel. N and N, not M and M, but N and N. Okay. He's slow-moded too. He's like,
Good evening, board members, superintendent, Member McGurk. We're here today to provide you an update on the school mural project that we've been busy working on. Here is tonight's agenda for this presentation. And one acronym. So, why school murals? That's the question. There are a number of beneficial reasons for school murals and why they're beneficial. Being a facilities person, I love the campus beautification portion of it. But also, there are a number of studies, peer-reviewed academic studies out there that show there's an impact on student outcomes in relation to the facilities that students learn in. And so that is quite important characteristic for me here tonight, but as well as inspiring the students, bringing them in, finding ways to connect with them also improves their absenteeism or their attendance and overall student achievement. It also provides a foundation for engaging and inspiring those students and creating more connections to their school site. But it's not only the connection for the students, but it's the connection to the community and the greater community as well. In facilities planning for school districts, it's the same as urban planning as well. And so we want to blend that property line as much as possible with the greater community. But then also, it provides an opportunity for us to engage the community through the community fairs of the events that we're holding around the school murals, and then continue to engage the community long after the paint is dry.
Let's go down. So we wanted to just give everybody a sense of what these community fairs look and feel like in partnership with the school mural projects we've been doing. It's short.
a video.
Doesn't want to play? It's really beautiful though, it gives me chills. Oh yeah.
Opportunities number one.
so you can probably see there's just so much joy in this project. And we're really proud of this work. I gotta say, I have the most beautiful job. Bringing people together is such a wonderful thing to be able to do. So I wanted to talk about some of our impact so far. Back in May of 2021, we went to Luther Burbank High. That was our first post-pandemic community fair. And so I asked Wide Open Walls if they had the ability to provide a donation so that we could get supplies to some student artists who wanted to paint live at that fair. And not only did they provide those supplies to us for free as a district, they also donated a street art workshop for those kids down at Twisted Track Art Gallery. The very same weekend, they donated the entire project at Tahoe Elementary in partnership with their sponsors. And then our current partnership began this fiscal year, 2022-2023, at Elder Creek. That was our first partnered fair where we had 18 murals painted at Elder Creek and about 2,500 attendees came out. And then at Bret Harte, we had about 500, even though it was Thanksgiving week and a little bit chilly. And they got 30 murals at that school. So it was really incredible. Next slide, please. And we've strategically paired these efforts because we're able to widen our reach for both efforts. So as an example, more district families that may not necessarily be interested in coming out for seeing some live street art happening may be exposed to it and otherwise wouldn't have because they're coming to get resources at the fairs, or vice versa. They're getting resources because they came to see the art. And in addition to that, in the past 8 months, we've forged so many amazing community partnerships with nonprofits and other organizations that have helped us to serve more families, more critical resources at a time everyone really needs the help. Next slide. This is a statement from one of our principals of Elder Creek, and I'll just read it as quick as I can. I can't express enough how much Wide Open Walls mural project has impacted the students and families of Elder Creek Elementary School. Over one weekend, we were transformed from a plain, run-of-the-mill, 50-year-old elementary school in an often forgotten about neighborhood into a place that stands out and just sparkles. Elder Creek has always been an essential part in the lives of our wonderful families and community, and now it truly looks the part. And then one more from our principal over at Bret Harte, Dr. Roxanne Wolf. She had to say the work that was completed at the school has greatly affected our school climate. I have a classroom teacher walking the different spaces, enjoying the work and talking about what they see and feel from each mural. Students are learning to express themselves through art and words. Many neighbors say as they walk the neighborhood, they always find something new in the artwork and enjoy viewing the work each time they walk by. So we're not just impacting our school, but the larger community as well. Next slide.
That is why.
This one's Nathaniel.
And so in selecting the school sites for these projects, we utilize the Facilities Master Plan Equity Index map that the board, many of the board members have seen before. It identified neighborhoods that had a higher social vulnerability, as well as student populations that were identified in the LCAP funding priorities. And so using that map, we identified areas and parts of town that we wanted to find school sites in. And then from there, went to those sites to make sure that there was a large number of walls that were able to be painted. For example, some of the school sites that we looked at originally had a large amount of brickwork, which is not copacetic for a large mural. So with those two components, we were able to identify the school sites for this effort.
Thank you, Nathaniel. So we hope that you'll join us this Saturday. We're going to be at Father Keith B. Kenny, and we're really excited. We have some student performances that I'm really, really excited to see. Those are going to be at 1:30 and 3 p.m. So if you're going to come, make sure you come and see the kids. And just a lot of fun is going to be happening, as well as all of the murals, of course. And then this is our schedule for the remainder of this year, the weekends that Wide Open Walls will be out at our schools, and we'll also be on those third Saturdays hosting our community fairs as well.
All right, so the Wide Open Walls Partnership Agreement with the major components outlined here, are really focused on the facilities improvements we talked about, arts on campuses, student engagement, and just really a deeper connection to the surrounding community. I also wanted to note that there will be a forthcoming block grant that will focus more specifically on student arts at a deeper level, but we wanted to start creating that look and feel at our sites.
We actually want to invite up Mr. David Soban as well. He's the founder of Wide Open Walls, in case any questions you may have would be best answered by him.
Hello.
Superintendent, trustees.
Okay, so before we get into board comment, do we have any public comment?
Pardon me, we have Terrence Gladney signed up.
Okay, let's get Terrence Gladney, and then we'll have you guys come right back up. Mr. Gladney, the floor is yours.
I will try to be quick so you guys can ask your questions. I love that there's community fairs. The one thing that I didn't see that I hope is represented somewhere is, given our number of vacancies, a job fair or job presence, especially if we could get people from the communities that our students are from. We can touch on SEL, lifelong impact, security, community engagement. It's all, if we could add that layer, it'd be great. I also want to thank facilities for including the equity index that we worked so hard on with the facilities master plan. But one thing I was concerned about, and I think Nathaniel kind of uplifted it, we have a lot of spaces that are either brick. We have a facilities master plan in which we intend to potentially rebuild or change schools. I don't know if it's considerable or it's been considered to possibly put the murals on panels or some other removable surface, because once these things become part of a school's culture, if we go in and then uproot or change the school site by improving it, if the murals go, we've possibly done that work for nothing and are removing something that's become part of a campus's culture. So just some things I hope we can consider to make this even better. So thank you guys for the work.
Hopefully, Nathaniel can speak to some of those things. You know all the answers, that's why. But also, we're going to have board questions, which might consist on some of that as well, Nathaniel, so hold tight. We have, right now, Member Kayada.
Well, I have a couple questions, but first, I would like to agree with everything Mr. Gladney just said. Can you answer his questions to start us off?
Well, ask the question for him.
I am recasting his questions in my own voice now.
No, so those.
You can hear me, I'm sure.
Yeah, but if you can push the button, I think the question was for Nathaniel around the usage of painting on walls and the plans that we had previously when it comes to rebuilding schools. How will these murals be utilized, and if we're tearing them down and whatnot? If you just for your recollection.
Am I on? Yeah, absolutely. So we will look into that a little bit more and get back to you. But a lot of the walls that I understand and I remember seeing at Elder Creek, we would be able to take and move to a new facility as well. But we'll look at that a little bit more with a finer lens to make sure that that's something that we can carry on to any new facilities moving forward.
Okay. Can I just interject, Member Kayada, real quickly? As part of that follow-up, Mr. Browning, if we can be very specific in outlining whether there are any projects, for example, funded through Measure H that might impact whether or not that has been part of the consideration. I think it has been part of the consideration. So, but let's just be pretty clear in our follow-up so that there isn't any confusion about whether we're going to then invest in modernizing some of these facilities where we just painted murals that we'd like to keep.
Yes, Superintendent, that is correct. So we are not painting any murals on any of the school sites that we're looking at doing a large capital investment program with Measure H dollars at this point.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, and we'll take that back.
And then so now I have my own words. First of all, I would like to say I really do love this project. Before I was elected, I did speak in favor of it. I think it's great. I've been to two of the sites. My family went to Elder Creek. I couldn't make it that weekend. But just really, truly beautiful. So I would be remiss, though, not to notice that $250,000 is a lot of money. We want to make sure we're fulfilling all the needs of our community. In going there and in speaking to some members of the public, I'm a little concerned that we're not fully fulfilling our VAPA mission, the previous agenda item. The community fair portion is amazing, but I don't see the students involved in creating the artwork. I don't necessarily, it seems like, a team of amazing artists swoop in, and that's great, and I love that, but I'm wondering if we can kind of go back to the first school site you mentioned, and bring it back to, an idea that I spoke with someone about was have the artist, ideally be a local artist, have them come to the class, a couple weeks in advance, work with the students, design, and then the students can actually participate in painting part of it. Some of the, more gradient art, I'm sure the kids might have trouble with that, but they can do some of it, so.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I want to highlight this is not our only arts initiative. This is one of many, many partnerships that we have. And while $250,000 is a lot of money in comparison to, expanding arts programming throughout the district and the additional funding that we're going to be receiving for arts, it is a drop in the bucket, and it's making a huge impact for, I think, the spend versus the impact. So, definitely, I lost my train of thought, but yeah, we're definitely, trying to widen how we serve children through the arts in general through multiple partnerships. Now, having arts education is part of what Wide Open Walls is offering us through this contract, and they've been doing community handprint walls at the schools that we go to with the kids, and of course at Hiram, that won't be as appropriate age-wise, so we've got different ways that we're engaging with the students and doing the educational component. But I would love to see us partner with many, many organizations and expand this effort, not just through, murals, but in capacities like you're talking about as well. But that's not necessarily what Wide Open Walls does.
Sure, and I'll just end with a comment. I just wanted to be really clear, I absolutely love this project. And I understand that it's part of a larger scope of what we do. I just think if there's ways, if we're deliberate about what we do, and this, I guess, for you, Mr. Saban, maybe there's ways we can add a little bit in, not recreate the whole concept of it, but I think we have the opportunity to kind of work around the edges a little and add a little more. But I do understand at the end of the day, this is, adult created artwork by artists, not necessarily just the students, so.
Member Villa.
So obviously I have so many things to say about this, and I'm so glad that it's finally on the agenda and we can hear from you all, the work that you're putting into. I know your whole team, Nikki, you guys are killing it, and I know how much work you put into this. I'll just speak alone on Elder Creek. That event was mind-blowing, and I literally had people, the principal, family members, community members, teachers, students just in awe that afternoon I'll go back to a lot of comments that I have, but the fact that there was food provided for families, haircuts, bike services, counseling services. This is not just an art initiative. While that's the main component, this is servicing our community in such a larger scale than we can even understand the impact now. And when we brought this to the board, President Rhodes, Leticia Garcia, and myself said, we want $250,000, and we were not going to take no for an answer. Is that a nice way to say it? It needed to happen. It needed our schools. I've said this a million times, they look like jails, and that is not the place that we are serving students, that we expect them to achieve greater results. They need to see something that they can take part of, they can have a sense of pride, and every single mural is a sense of pride for their school. The Bret Hart, just to have a personalized approach to their art where they could come to school and just see that impact, worth it. It's worth all of the hours, it's worth all of what you guys are doing and putting into this. And this is a different, since this project has been initiated and how this is going on schools, I can't tell you how many phone calls, and David, you have completely exceeded our expectations, and I cannot thank you enough. I have sent you so many people because so many districts in the greater region have reached out to me and said, what do I do to get wide open walls? And I said, I can't help you, but I'll send you to some other people because I kind of want to keep it close to the cuff because this is so important for our students and our teachers and our community.
It's too late.
Too many people have reached out, and too many people. So I'm thankful for that. Going back to, like I said, all the services that you provided, it's the tables and it's the people that actually show up from our community that would never step foot on our school campuses. That is impactful. Elder Creek, that farmer's market, that's near my home. So I drive past that all of the time, and I see these people going to the market, parking on the side of the road, coming down Power Inn, and these people actually stopped and were walking. I mean, how long was the parking lot to get in there? That is what this project is about. It's about community, it's about art, but it's about changing the trajectory of how we see our school sites. But I also want to point out, it's also artists that are local artists. These aren't people only that are traveling. This is showing, and I've said this so many times too, you're giving kids the ability to see that art is a career. Art is a real thing that is a tangible item that you can do and be. This could be you. You could be an artist, and it's a wonderful career. And how fun is this? So I love that we're actually seeing local talent. David, you're finding them. These are people who are now raising their hand, jumping, saying, I want to be a part of this. So you've changed that for our city, and I'm very thankful for that. I could say so many things. Obviously, you know, I love this project. I love everything that we're doing, and I cannot wait to see the rest of our schools transform. From where I drive, from my house to my grocery store to my daughter, I hit 3 schools. And every time I see these different murals, I'm like, get so excited. And I can't even imagine if I was a student at these schools or a teacher or because anybody who's at these school sites, it's changing them. So I could talk for hours about this because it's very special to my heart. And I really appreciate all of the work that you guys are putting into it. It matters. The impact is forever, and it's good stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Singh.
Thank you all. I have nothing but good things to say about the wide open walls. It's awesome. I was actually just at Tahoe Elementary. That's where I was today. I was at Tahoe, so it was nice to go through and see the murals. So just wanted to say thank you. I did have a follow-up for Daniel about Terrence mentioned, Terrence is still here. The idea around, you just mentioned how exciting it is that folks have been showing up. So I do see that I know the next one is in your area, but after that we have it at Hiram Johnson on the 18th and 19th. So I also wonder if that's a missed opportunity if we don't have a job fair. That's like really stuck in my head now because Terrence just mentioned that. So 7,000 people is how many we've like gotten out there. So what can we do what's the process? Is that something to talk to you about, or if they want to tell me otherwise? But is that something that you can set up, or do we have a conversation later?
Yeah, I think working with the superintendent would probably be best. They only trust me with facilities, not hiring individuals. So.
Should we trust you in hiring people if we can just speed up the process? No, okay, it's just helpful to know. I'm just trying to see if there's any conflicts or anything else that I need to know of, but if not, then that's what I would want to do.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea, Member Singh. I am looking to Dr. McCarn because we have, as part of our community fairs, had our HR department. But I'm also wondering whether there's an opportunity for us to partner with other agencies that also are looking for employees as part of their own work. But in terms of Sac City specific, we have had our HR department, just making sure that individuals know about opportunities in Sac City.
Am I able to connect with you directly afterwards, possibly? Because my real concern is, I think folks have talked about, especially Hiram Johnson, having hiring needs. And if we have folks coming to the school that day and we're talking about hiring people at Hiram Johnson, they'll get a look at Hiram Johnson. They'll probably see a very beautified campus a few weeks after that. So they have an opportunity to come to what is going to seem like a brand new place. So I just want people to be excited. And if they do show up and they see that spot and then they want to work there, it's just a win-win. I don't see a losing situation in that. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Singh. Member McGurk.
So I have went to the meeting for the open walls, and not only just me, but my fellow students are really excited for this project. But now that I've brought to my attention about the job fair, I also would think would be really interesting if we had like some type of like some colleges coming over here too. Cause I'm not gonna lie, I did miss the first job fair we had, and we had a few colleges there, and so I just want to be able to connect with jobs and also be able to connect with colleges, because not only for me but for other kids too.
Good enough.
Member McGurk, I will absolutely take that back to my desk tomorrow and we'll make that happen.
All right, thank you. But what you guys are doing is wonderful. It's lovely.
Anyone else before? Okay. So job fairs, yes. I think that job fairs are going to be great. I think we can do some stuff with SETA as well. So, Nikki, you know how we'll connect around some of this job fair work. For me, community fairs, beautifying our school sites. This is stuff that I talked about when I first ran for office. The idea of strong schools build strong neighborhoods and communities, and vice versa. And a lot of times in our neighborhoods are places, and some of our neighborhoods are places where you don't have access to art that is based in your neighborhood. And some of the biggest canvases that we have that are in our neighborhoods are actually our school sites. And for school sites to be hubs of the community, but then also a point of pride and beautification for the people that are there. I had somebody ask me, it's nice to paint things on walls, sure, but what else do we really need? And I had to tell that individual, I said, that's a privileged statement, because the areas and places that I come from in Sacramento, beautifying our neighborhoods is always thought as secondary. And so for you to think that this is just paint on a wall, for so many of my community members, it's not. So I'm excited that we continue the work, that we invested in the work. And David, you've provided more than what we originally said, right? I mean, 12 murals at a school site where we have contracted you for, and about how many are you doing at school sites usually when you pop in?
Thank you very much for asking that question. I want to give maybe an example first. So in the last 7 years, Wide Open Walls has created over 200 murals around the greater Sacramento area. Our budget for those 7 years as a nonprofit was a little over $2 million. Our average cost per mural is over $10,000 when we pay for travel, when we pay for the artist stipends, when we pay to run the nonprofit. That's over $10,000 per mural. The contract that we have was for 12 murals for the $35,000. We have obviously over-delivered on that promise, and the biggest reason is the artists have a desire. They are so into this, you have no idea. They want to come paint. They're not charging me $10,000 to paint. We're offering them, every single artist is paid, and they're willing to work for a lot less money. But when I look at what the impact of 12 murals would do versus if let's use Bret Hart, the last school we painted as an example. With the 28 murals that were completed, which 14 would you not want on those walls? In other words, if we only did 12 walls, what would the impact be? It would be nowhere near as great. So with the budget that I'm very grateful for, we've been able to basically really, really work hard and ask for favors and just be really efficient on how we spend that money to be able to, on an average, produce more than twice as many murals as we've been contracted to do. I'm pretty darn proud of that there are that many people that want to participate and we're able to use that money wisely. I know that in our initial conversations, the desire is eventually, over the next decade, is to paint all 70 schools. And I know where the priorities are and we're learning what the order is and what areas we're going into first. But eventually, I think every school deserves to be painted. At 7 schools a year, that's 10 years. I'll be 72. I'll keep going at it, no problem. But I think it's something that you might want to consider in budget next time is, can we increase the amount of money so we can increase the frequency of the number of schools that get painted, and even possibly at a little bit of a larger amount? When we go to Hiram Johnson and the school that we're painting, Father Pete McKinney, this weekend, we had to basically bring on big pieces of equipment to get up nice and high to paint big walls. That obviously eats into my artist budget. So in each school that we're painting, pretty much from here on out, I'm always looking to go raise more money than what the school, what you guys have provided. Again, very thankful for that. But when it comes to Rosa Parks, there's 3 times as many walls to painted, and it's drained wide open walls. And I've got artists coming in from all over the world that are going to want to paint on that school. And the biggest expense up on top of that, besides artists, is going to be expenses and accommodations. So yes, we've over-delivered. We'd like to keep on over-delivered, but it all costs money. And hopefully that some of the surplus and how we're looking at spending that is something that we can help you with and keep improving those campuses.
Appreciate that. And then to my other statements, I think we're going to talk now outside of the murals, but for the community fairs. These community fairs kind of started in Area 5 as a pilot. And the idea of the pilot, we started Rosa Parks during the pandemic. We threw a bike fix-it cafe, and we said, hey, we want to invite people from our community. And we saw that simply having a place where people can go get their bike fixed brought out like 100 to 200 people to Rosa Parks to fix their bikes. That simple need, the small thing, that simple need of saying, hey, I can get my bike fixed. We learned that, hey, wait a second, bikes, getting them fixed and tuned up cost about $60 to $90. And now our families can't have that expense, but we've provided something for them. And so then we start saying, okay, well, how do we impact the outside indicators to educational success? And what are those indicators and how do we hit those? And when we started building coalitions from Saba to SMUD now to all these different people, and we started doing something big in the south side of the city, which actually seeded all this other work that we're doing. But with that being said, there's pragmatic work there as well. And when we think about it, when we look at our absenteeism and our truancy rates, and we look at the schools that we're going into and trying to impact that absenteeism and truancy rates through different ways of engaging community and building space and place, that is the beauty of this community fair work. It's not just a fun time for a fun time. There's pragmatism in it. There's community-minded and centered focus in the work that we do. And then we're beautifying our neighborhoods. As a school district, a modern school district, we have to change the arc of how we view investment and impact in the communities, not only in the school day, but on the outside of our schools. Our schools and our communities that they are in deserve to be beautiful. They deserve to have things that are given to them, and they deserve to be the center of their community, and we deserve to be built around that way. This is the start of that work. And this is not the beginning or the end. This is the start of the new way of thinking about Sacramento Unified School District and our impact. That's the beauty of the work that you guys are doing. And once again, I'm very passionate about this because I held it with myself for like the first year, and to see it grow so much is beyond belief. And I think it's beautiful for my colleagues that they get to come in and have their voice add to this process and grow this process. And I'm very excited about what we can do together. So yeah, I got a little bit passionate there, but just like literally, I feel that we have huge opportunities and some that we haven't even thought of yet that we can really do. And Nikki, I want you to think about this and throw it out there. I want you to Habitat for Humanity, rock the block. School murals and community fair coupled with rock the block of beautifying the houses around the school sites at the same time. so that when people drive into their neighborhood, they now see beautiful homes that have been repainted and landscaped while they're seeing their school and beautification of the murals alongside of that. This is the way that we can change communities while we're partnering to better the outcomes for all of our students, because we can't think about our entire students without thinking about their entire communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, wait. We have member Phillips who wants to something to say.
Because I don't use flowery language, but that was beautiful, President Rhodes. I really, truly am looking at wide open walls as an anti-gentrification move. And that's what he talked about. He's talking about neighborhoods that have been put into a position where they could do nothing but degrade. And just showing that there's an organization that cares, there's a district that cares. I'm really excited to be able to provide a sense of joy for our students, because there are a lot of them who get to school and that's home for them. And that is where we need to make sure we beautify. I was at Keith B. Kinney looking up at
Jose de Gregorio's.
So all I saw
planetarium.
was this big walkway and the guys are spray painting it black. And I'm like, what in the world is this going to be? I'll find out on Saturday. But I truly appreciate the hard work. Nikki's been working her behind off. Mrs. Alexander, our principal, has been unlocking the doors and letting people in and doing what we need to do. I want to make sure that I shed that light that this is bigger than we think it is. Even though it's huge, it is gigantic. And I want to be able to ride my bike to the community center and ride through wherever I got to ride to look at it, to go in the back and look on the walls. I'm so excited, even though I don't normally show it, but I'm really excited. So we got to keep up the good work. I would love to see a job fair too. Sorry,
Fair
Concy.
coming. Job fair coming.
Board members, I just want to take this opportunity really to express my gratitude to our team who really came up with this concept of community fairs initially and married that effort to what Member Rhodes mentioned earlier that was started in Area 5 during COVID, during distance learning. And I think it's just become a very beautiful effort, very cross-departmental. This is an effort that almost single-handedly started with Nikki as our community manager, and then knew that she had to interact with facility staff members and many other individuals to pull this off. Really just her tireless effort in making sure that we can be closer to our community. We often say, as we think about our commitment to equity, that for us, facilities planning, school planning is neighborhood planning. And so I can't agree more with Member Phillips about this. I hope that someday people will want to come and treat these murals as kind of part of Art Hop or something, and they know a little bit about the history of the murals and when they were painted and who painted them, and they can travel across our entire city to our schools and learn more about this beautiful community of Sacramento, our school district, and why we painted the murals the way we painted them. I'll say a little bit during my report. I don't want to disclose anything, but I'm really looking forward to one mural that is planned at Father Keith B. Kinney that I think may become my favorite for the moment. So I'm hoping that everyone will show up and join us.
Seeing that there's no more board comment, thank you guys for your time. We'll move to the next item.
One quick one?
You would like to say something?
Yeah, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Feel free.
The idea of the community and spreading it around, it's the new focus of Wide Open Walls. We've always been focused on one event a year during May when 25 to 35 artists show up in Sacramento. That's going to reduce to where the main event is going to be painting a school, and the artists from all over the world are going to come and do that. So we're going to take part of our normal budget, we're going to dump it into that, and we're going to just blow the socks out of everybody. So yes, the demand will be from every district, but you guys are priority because you were first. And
we're first,
to
man.
see everybody.
We're first.
This is more than 12. I got 3 more phone calls after this poster was done, so now we'll have 24 muralists painting. We just dug into the supply cabinet, we found more work for them, we have all their designs approved, and we hope to see everybody on Saturday. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving into item 10.0, board workshop, strategic plans and other initiatives. Item 10.1, approval and submission of credential waiver applications. Ms. McCarn. Oh, no. Hello. Floor is yours.
Good evening, Board President Rhodes, board members, and Superintendent Aguilar. I am here this evening to present to you and ask for your approval of a credential waiver application. Ed Code provides an opportunity for districts to waive a portion of credential requirements in order to allow educators more time to complete their credential requirements. In order to submit a credential waiver applications for certificated employees in need, CTC, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, requires a public notice process and board approval prior to submission of any waiver applications. That is why I'm here this evening. Here are the trends of credential waivers requests for our district over the last few years. We continuously work with our employees to meet the needs of their credential requirements. The applicant listed here is currently working on meeting their CTC requirements in order to obtain their English language authorization to provide instruction to English learners. Oops, sorry. The waiver request this evening will allow this teacher the additional time needed in order to complete their English language authorization while they continue to work with their students. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. Do we have any public comment? No. Okay. We have any board comment? Member Jean.
What additional supports do we offer these teachers along the way? Just because I know that they're doing this, but how do we make sure that they're successful and that they're meeting the needs of the students as well?
Well, this particular teacher and most waiver applicants have a preliminary credential. This is a CTE teacher, and as a new teacher, they're offered induction support. They're also in a credential program with the County Office of Education to clear their CTE credential, and they're offered support there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have others? Okay. And this item, we will be taking a vote because you remember.
We need
a motion.
We need a motion.
I will motion to move forward. Sorry about that. Motion and second. Superintendent.
Yeah.
A student preferential.
Aye.
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Kayada? Aye. Member Phillips?
Yes.
Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh?
Aye.
Member Villa?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much. Next, we will go to item 11.0, communications, superintendent report.
Thank you, President Pritchett, and good evening to everyone.
I'm not Pritchett at all.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Member Rhodes. President Rhodes, sorry. My mistake. Thank you again. I wanted to just start by obviously recognizing that the new year has brought us another challenging return to school from winter break. Last year, if you remember, we did experience the wave of Omicron. And this year we encountered storms that brought dangerous winds, falling trees, a lot of flooding, of course, power outages, and even a state of emergency that was declared in many parts of our county. As you know, we did make the decision to close all of our schools last Monday, the 9th, or on the 9th, as we just didn't have a clear timeline for restoration of power or phone lines, which did impact several of our schools. And if you remember, we had another storm moving into the area. But I'm proud that by Tuesday, we were able to open all but 5 of our schools that were still without power. And if you remember, by Wednesday, we were able to welcome all of our students back to our schools. During the crisis, there were many who rose to the occasion to help our students and families. Once we knew we couldn't open for school on Sunday evening, we needed community support to help us share that message, since so many were experiencing still power outages and couldn't charge their phones and other devices that they were using for urgent updates. Thank you to our board members for their and our proactive parents who helped share the news about the closure with their networks. For example, I saw something on Ring notification and other pieces about the message that we sent out to our community. No one, of course, wants to be outside in severe weather like that, which is why I'm again grateful for the hard work of our facilities team led by Mr. Chris Ralston, Nathaniel Browning, to coordinate and respond to damage from these storms so that we could open our schools. But I'd also want to take a moment to thank other individuals, and this might take just a little bit, President Rhodes, so I apologize. From our maintenance leadership, I'd like to thank Paul Banks. I'd like to thank Steve Flack, Alex Constance, Brent Nicodemus, Troy Meets, Miguel Castañeda, Sherry Oldenburg, Tracy Hawkins, Jeff Wynn for visiting each site to verify power and storm damage and repair leaky roofs. In the garden shop, I'd like to thank Miguel Castañeda, Sherry Oldenburg, Ismael Juarez, Ricardo Marquez, Anthony Alvarado, Jesse Harbert, Dakota Philpott, and Joe Bell for removing 4 trees that were blocking paths to schools to ensure safe passage for students. Overall, approximately 100 large trees had to be cleaned up the week school resumed along with much more storm debris. We had more than 200 feet of fence repaired by shop staff, so thank you to Nick Vargas, Rick Wilson, Brian Boland, and Chris Gerard. There were staff needed to respond to roofie leaks and clearing roof drains. I want to thank John Wellborn and Richard Warner for getting the job done. Before school could resume, we needed staff to respond to flooded parking lots and clearing storm drains. And I want to thank again Brett Nicodemus, Luis Vaca, John Gale, and Wade Watson. From the construction team, I want to thank Brendan Swanson for meeting with structural engineers for the buildings receiving storm damage to ensure safety before we returned, and also for working to coordinate emergency repairs for 2 of our schools. And thank you to our maintenance staff, Jeff Wynn, Paul Banks, again, Troy Meets, and Alex Constance for their availability on the weekend and nights to work with SMUD and leadership regarding power and network status. Also want to say that despite the short notice of closure on Sunday evening, our Nutrition Services Department worked quickly to provide an emergency meal option at the Central Kitchen. I know President Rhodes was there. Thank you for that. For those who were able to travel safely on Monday, Diana Flores, who I see here, I think I saw her earlier, did an amazing job to get this project underway with very short notice, and I'm proud of our nutrition services team's work to meet an overwhelming demand to feed our children. They served over 1,500 meals that day at Central Kitchen. Of course, thank you to Chef Tom Lucero, Sean Rivera, and the entire Nutrition Administrative Office team, as well as Jason Holland and our warehouse supervisor for undertaking this large operation within a few hours. And the Central Kitchen passes along with their thanks, as do I, to Board President Rhodes again for pitching in to help on Monday morning. As we understand, this round of storms may be over, but of course we all fear that storms such as these may occur more often, which is why I've instructed staff to not only learn key operational lessons from this, but also learn how these storms can impact our students, staff, families, not only physically, of course, mentally, and to make sure we have all of the supports around connecting our families and our students to resources and emergency services. I heard a very legitimate criticism about the fact that our state does not have, I think right now, the ability to send notifications in different languages. So it's those really simple things. I also want to just switch a little bit. As I alluded to earlier, last year's return from winter break was at the height of the Omicron wave of the pandemic, and we continue to use some of the same strategies to mitigate the COVID spread. Last year, we prevented over 500 cases from spreading throughout our schools by launching a pilot program to send students home with COVID home test kits way before the state provided those free of cost to schools. That was a very important investment that we made. And although this winter we experienced a shorter and quicker peak in cases countywide, I'm proud to say that the same strategy prevented at least 92 positive cases from returning to our schools. As the conditions of the pandemic continue to change, we will bring back more guidance and recommendations to the board for consideration for the 23-24 school year. On the subject of making decisions for next year, the application period is fast approaching for open enrollment. For grades K through 8, it begins February 1st and runs through February 15th. The process will be much easier for our families because we are excited about our new partnership with School Mint that hosts our new School Finder resource. In that, families will be able to sort through the schools in our district and learn about different locations and program offerings. And we think this is a wonderful opportunity for our schools to showcase themselves and their offerings for our families to apply to the site that best fits their needs. I, of course, want to ask our board members to help us promote that deadline. It's a really critical deadline, and many times our families forget about it, and then we're not able, just because of the demand, to support them. I know open enrollment, there's always popular choices, and one of them is a school that has been named the California Distinguished School. That's Phoebe Hearst by the California Department of Education. Of course, want to congratulate Principal Martin and all the teachers at Phoebe Hearst for achieving this honor. I think there were 7 throughout Sacramento County, and we're proud that that was one of the schools of Sac City. And as you heard during the presentation just a few minutes ago, I again want to extend invitation to all of our community members to join us on Saturday. I'm sure Member Phillips will be there at our community fair and mural event at Father Keith B. Kinney Elementary in Oak Park. On Monday, finally, Member Rhodes, Phillips, and I had the honor to welcome our community partner, Kaiser Permanente, as they arrived for their volunteer project as part of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. National Day of Service. I did see, and there is a picture out there, everyone, of Member Phillips' skills using power tools as she built planters for Father Keith B. Kinney. So we're very excited that on Saturday we will welcome families to Father Keith B. Kinney to see the results of Kaiser's team's volunteer work and also the work of talented community artists that in just a few days will transform that school. I hope to see all of you there on Saturday. Thank you, President.
Thank you, Superintendent. I don't know if you left any other updates to be said, but I would like to just touch on, I would like to be thankful to my colleagues. We looked making hard decisions when it comes to our schools and the closing of our schools, on the safety of our students, staff, and employees. I think that it's been wonderful to work with you all and help make hard decisions together. And then I would also say that starting the school year back from break in that way was hard. The storms were very detrimental across the city of Sacramento, but I'm happy that our students are back in school. I'm happy that our teachers are teaching and our other staff members are there, and we're getting the work done. I would also like to tell everybody, as we continue to work to better our classroom environments, that you let your staff administration know things that need to be fixed so that those things can be handled. Storms have wreaked havoc across our schools, and so we have aging facilities as well, and so we're working to get those things done. I'll keep mine short once again because a superintendent has thanked the whole district already, but I do want to give opportunities for my colleagues as well to have their opportunity for sharing out. So with that being said, we will move to 11.3, information sharing by board members. Please queue up if you'd like to share anything. And we'll go first with Madam Vice President, MVP herself, Member Phillips.
That's my nickname now. I am speaking to a room that is now devoid of people that I wanted to speak to earlier, and that is our transportation department. I really want to make sure that our folks know in transportation that I'm in full support of what they need, which is a livable wage, more than $20 an hour. Obviously, that's some new talk that we're going to have on the big side. But I do understand where they come from. I was a bus attendant for Sacramento County Office of Education. I was a family service worker for Sacramento County CPS, where I provided transportation. But what I think we may fail to recognize, and that was said multiple times this evening, was that these people do not just provide transportation. They don't just pick up kids and drive kids to school. They love our kids. They take care of our kids. They ensure that those children get to school because they know what they're responsible for. And when I see people who have been working for 30 years at this district, making what seems to be pennies, it reminds me why I don't do that particular job anymore. But it's not always possible for someone to go back to school. It's not always possible for someone to find another job. But these people are here compared to other districts that are paying a lot more for their bus drivers. Some people would have quit by now. And the reason these people are still here and why they all got up en masse and walked out of here was because they care about their jobs and they care about our students. And the level of respect that I think needs to be paid to these folks needs to be shared across our board meetings, whether we're in closed session, open session, whether we're on Facebook talking about whatever. These people need to be able to feed their families. They need to be able to support themselves. And I was there no more than 7 years ago, broke, trying to figure out if I was going to have a place to stay. So it is extremely important that we focus on the people who are attached to these numbers, the people who drive our children, the people who care enough to come in here when they should have been at home eating, going to bed, getting ready for their next day of driving a senseless number of shifts. I also want to say, since I'm in here, is that we have Miss Yvonne Wright, our new Chief Academic Officer, and I want to pay special mention to her because I'm very happy that we have a new Chief Academic Officer. Welcome, welcome, and welcome. And also, I wanted to make, because there's a list, and I know y'all probably want to go home.
No.
That's okay. There's a list that comes out when we reassign people, when people leave, when people are hired. And there is a bus driver. His name is Larry Witherspoon, and he is retiring. And we have another bus driver gone. And I'm looking at, perhaps there was a reassignment of a bus driver, but I don't see these people here. There's got to be a way that we can focus on making sure that not only our transportation staff, but our noon people, our lunch people, these folks who are working 2 and 3 jobs, that we focus on that. I'm very, very sorry that all of our transportation folks are gone, but I'll be making a separate copy of how I feel about that and how much how much I support them in their efforts to be treated fairly here at Sac City Unified.
Thank you. Board Member Kayada.
Thank you. So I would like to address some disappointment I had when I saw that this agenda was posted last Friday night, and also a communication that went out from our superintendent to SCTA that around exactly the same time. I think that it is very, very important to set the direction of this board, speaking for myself at least, and I hope others will join me, that we need to get started on some of these important conversations that I, for one, ran for election in order to address. First and foremost is Board Policy 3100, which I mentioned at December's meeting, and I've mentioned multiple times as a member of the public. I think we need to, earlier than later, set direction to our staff about our funding priorities and where we expect to spend our money so that staff can provide appropriate information to the board in future meetings. If we push that conversation out, we're going to continue to get recommendations, to get spending priorities that are consistent with the board policy that I, for one, do not agree with. And more importantly, I really would like to have that conversation. Under the Brown Act, we can't talk about this more than 3 of us at a time. I don't know how the rest of the board members feel about this yet. I asked as a member of the public so I could learn that, and I really want to hear this. So I'm really hoping we can get this at the next agenda for the next meeting. And then to return to the other item, the email communication to SCTA, which was alluded to earlier this evening, I forget by whom, pushing back the beginning of bargaining, pushing back our sunshine proposal. I am not in favor of that. I was not consulted on that. I think that we need to start bargaining now. We're not going to know exactly how we feel. The board is not going to have 6 months to talk to staff about what our priorities are. We need to start talking. The board needs to start talking to our staff here, our negotiations team, and we need to start hearing from all of our labor partners. It's just critically important that we address this. Until we iron out some of these details, we can't focus on anything else because it can become a distraction to the board, but also to our community. So I am really looking forward to having those conversations earlier than later. And it would be my preference that the direction the superintendent provided to SCTA be modified and that we get that sunshine proposal out within the next 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Kayada. Member Singh.
Thank you. I did have a lot more to say, but these two have said a lot, so I'll just start with concurring with what I'm hearing, and I really support the idea of us moving forward and quicker in addressing a lot of these concerns. One of the issues is I'm glad we were able to get our labor partners in here and home, and also, as you mentioned, now we don't get to say some of the feelings and thoughts that we have about how we want to express ourselves in terms of feeling for them and understanding that that is something we need to address immediately in order to kind of focus. I mean, I want to be able to focus on a lot of the positives, and also at the same time, I want to be able to address the concerns, and there's got to be space for both. And until we address some of those major concerns, some of the reasons that someone like me joined the strike line was for that purpose, to make sure that our teachers and our staff are supported. And if we're put in positions to support them and move things quickly, that we move them as quickly as possible. So I won't go into the details, I just concur. But what I will say is I have a couple of school updates that I want to mention. I know open enrollment is open or coming up soon. I also want to mention the importance of your neighborhood schools. I toured Tahoe Elementary today. Tahoe Elementary is an amazing school. Tahoe Elementary is a school that it provides pre-K, TK, kindergarten, after-school programs before and after. And sometimes what we do is we fail to actually visit those schools and we jump straight towards open enrollment. I'm not here to make decisions for families. I'm just reminding folks that we have amazing schools in this district. Please take a look at your home school and go for a tour. So for example, I'm doing a tour of David Lubin tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So if anybody wants to join me at 9 a.m., anybody who's listening or watching or somehow will see this recording before, which won't happen before 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. But there's multiple opportunities to tour schools. I encourage you to tour schools. I encourage you to actually take a look at what programs are provided, and then also become advocates for your neighborhood schools. If you see things that are being provided at your neighborhood school or not being provided at your neighborhood school, tell us so we can say, hey, that's something that would be a great addition to the school, because I can't be at every school site at the same time, but you as parents, you as community activists and advocates, you do see those missing links. And I want to make sure that we're fixing those missing links so that students at every school site, actually have an equitable access to a good education with well-paid teachers, with strong staff members. Students, regardless of their economic background or social background, are getting an equal access to education in Sac City Unified School District, and I want to ensure that that happens. So, thank you.
Thank you, Member Singh. Moving on to the next item. Okay, guess my time is up. Moving on to the next item, 12.0, consent agenda. First off, do we have any public comment?
Yes, we do.
How you doing, Terrence? No, we're gonna stay a little longer. You would stay with us.
Is this on? Okay. When I was looking at the agenda, I saw the 12.1 L and M on consent. Given the large dollar amount and also with, my history with bond oversight committee and facilities, I was kind of disappointed, especially with an agenda scheduled to end at 8:54. Although it may be something that's routinely placed here, I felt it was an opportunity to educate the community around what that process looks like, how the equity index works with facilities and everything else, but also even just provide something as simple as photos so we can understand the scope and scale of the damage, maybe a list of vetted vendors that might be considered, just more education on what that process looks like. That's how you get people in the room. And to that point, sometimes when I'm looking at these large agendas and packets, it's like playing hide and seek. I usually look at consent because sometimes it's the easiest place it's like looking under the bed, like a little kid's gonna hide in the most obvious spot. So I look there to see sort of like what is trying to be passed without process and what's trying to be circumvented. I think we have a culture of circumventing process and policy. We're talking about staffing. I see so many 5-hour positions listed adjacent to a 1-hour position, which is circumventing benefits at the same school site for the same position. I see, outgoing board members voting on things that are encumbering you guys. We talk about open enrollment. It's not the community's job to promote. I'll give you a case in point. I'm heavily involved at Cabrillo and Brandon. We have staff members at Cabrillo that say, I'm not sending my kid to San Brandon, which shares a fence, because I heard that it's a bad school. They don't do what board member Singh is doing, and it's not even like community. It's not, these are directly connected school sites. The promotion has to come from within the system that created this problem. Open enrollment was created to circumvent dealing with the problems at neighborhood schools, which are basically neglecting them. You say, oh, well, we'll give you an opportunity to go to a better school. Sutter does not have the capacity for all those students that you guys allow to go there based on perception. San Brandon is a great school, and I'm glad that we got one back in our own community, so I'm looking forward to working alongside Mr. Zarate. But also, again, just, don't ask of us what you guys have not done and aren't willing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Terrence. Is there any more public comment?
Yes, Nikki Malevsky signed up as well.
Yes. Hello, Nikki. How are you?
Good evening, board members.
Good morning, good evening.
Well, frankly, I was flabbergasted to see what's in the consent agenda on 12.1A. There's a contract to extend a contract for a second outside consultant on labor relations, a Margarita Maldonado. This is on top of Pam Manueller, who you already pay $500 a day to be your labor consultant, and your outside legal firm that you pay an amount that makes me sick to my stomach to handle your labor relations. Plus, you have internal people who are very competent to do so, but you don't allow them to do so, to work with labor. We see no evidence of Ms. Maldonado doing any productive work in this district. In fact, I've only seen her twice. Once on Zoom at a grievance meeting this fall, it appeared that she was just taking notes. And I saw her once last spring on Zoom talking about implementing the agreements that we made in April. This one was about substitute teachers getting some compensation to help them deal with COVID leave and being out sick last year when it was just horrible, right? And we came to an agreement that we would pay those teachers for their sick leave, right? Ms. Maldonado came up with a nice flow chart and presented it at this Zoom meeting about how they were going to go through a process to get substitutes paid and regular teachers paid. Here we are, and those substitute teachers are still not paid for the time they were out sick with COVID. That she created this plan that they were supposed to, put in paperwork by June. They did that 7 months later, after our members have done their work, put in their paperwork. You have not compensated those teachers for when they were out sick. And Cami Calais, for another $270,000 to be another budget consultant to create the budgets that were so inaccurate? You want to pay that money? I count almost $500,000 in outside consultants on this consent agenda. When you already have in-house people to do those things, imagine what $500,000 would do for bus drivers. How many bus drivers could we get? How many intervention teachers could we get for students rather than these outside consultants? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Member Kayada.
Thank you, President. I would like to pull 12.1A, and after we vote on the remaining consent items, to return for discussion on that. Thanks.
Okay, so Member Kayada, you're pulling 12.1A. After we approve, that no other member pulls anything. After we approve the consent agenda, we will bring that up. Okay? Okay, so consent agenda, absent 12.A. Can I get a motion to approve a second? Second. Okay. Motion passes. Oh, wait, sorry. Can we get student preferential?
Aye.
Member Jean?
Aye.
Member Kayada? Aye. Member Phillips?
Aye.
Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh?
Oh, yes.
Member Villa?
Aye.
Okay, going back to item 12.1 at the request of Board Member Kayada, approving grant entitlements and other income agreements, ratification and other agreements, approval of bid awards, approval of declaration surplus, materials and equipment, change notice and notice of completion, Rose Ramos. I guess we're going to have a vote on that discussion. So Member Kayada, could you?
Thank you. So Nikki took some of the wind out of my sails here. Tonight, I would essentially like to draw something of a line in the sand that I think we need to have a lot higher board scrutiny over contracts for professional services. In a lot of cases, I've been watching this as a member of the community. I think we approve these things, or the board approves these items, when these positions really should be internal. If we have a strong need for it, it should be an employee of the district. I think that contracting for services of this nature should be limited to when it's either very short term, so it doesn't make sense to hire someone, specialized skills that we can't hire someone, in which case I'd really actually, in most cases, like to see us try to hire someone before we immediately go to a contracted service. Ultimately, I think we're doing a disservice to our community by contracting these things out, having less oversight and less control than we have over employees. And there are two specific items that tonight I am proposing be voted no on, with the remainder to be voted yes on, and Anne can help me with that if I need help. But there's two contracts under Business and Services Department for Cami Calais and for Margarita Maldonado. I would propose that we do not approve those two items tonight. I am not convinced that we have a need for these two items for similar reasons that Nikki Milewski shared. But from my own perspective, even if there is a need, I would like to see, as a board member, anytime services of this nature are before us, whether they're contract renewals or initial contracts, that we be given a full explanation for why this is absolutely necessary and why this cannot be performed by staff in our district. I don't have any sort of specific objections to Cami Calais. I don't know anything about her. I don't necessarily see why we need contracted work in the budget. I know we need a lot of help with our budgets and our finance and whatnot. Why can't this person be a staff? With respect to Margarita Maldonado, again, I don't know her personally, but I was represented by SEIU 1000 during the time that she was bargaining vice president there. I will just say I was not satisfied as part of SEIU 1000 with her leadership in that area, and I'm not sure what she's offering to our district in that area. So that is, I guess, a motion and comment.
Okay, we have Member Villa.
As a board, I think these conversations should maybe happen, we can possibly do some two-buys. So instead of voting on something that possibly maybe you're not aware of, that maybe other board members are, I think that's important before we place that to a vote. While it's great to hear from our community, I think it's important to hear from our current staff, our superintendent, and this board as a whole on these items. I'm not comfortable pulling this off and making a vote because you had a bad experience with her. I think that's not appropriate as a board representing our school district. And I think it's just important that maybe we bring these items back to a conversation at a later date. And maybe we just don't vote on this and pull this off as a whole.
Member Villa, is that a secondary motion to his motion?
Yes, thank you. I would like to remove that, and I would like to bring that back after a board, possibly two-by or meeting. But this needs to be a board internal conversation, not in this setting, because maybe there's information that you're not. Well, we can absolutely adhere to the Brown Act. Thank you. We are aware of that.
So, Ann?
Okay, so Member Kayada, your motion was to approve everything but those two contracts. Member Villa has amended that motion to not vote on those two, but to pull them and bring them back at another meeting. So we're going, is there any more board discussion on Member Villa's amended motion?
And it's a question for you, Ann.
Yes.
Was Member Villa's motion so that board members get more information like what Member Kayada was asking for?
I think her motion was to bring those two items back at a future meeting for action so that between now and when they come back, board members can get questions answered and be given more information about those two items. Is that correct?
That is correct. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. And then so those are the two motions. Now we also have some more comments. So there's MVP, Madam Vice President Phillips.
So this is when things get kind of messy, when there are concerns for transparency. I understand what Member Kayada is saying, because perhaps we need, are you saying that we need to, I got to ask 15 times. So you're saying that we need to pull that completely? Can you help it, Ann? He wants to pull that completely off the consent agenda, but Member Villa also said...
Member Kayada, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe what Member Kayada was saying is that he would like to, his motion was to vote no on those two contracts and vote yes for the remainder of 12.1A. Member Villa was saying her motion was to pull those two contracts instead of voting them no, to bring them back.
And bringing them back, not necessarily having another conversation as a board, but giving the board members opportunity through two buys to then bring it back. So that's the Brown Act thing doesn't actually, because we're not going to confer.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what I'm going to clear the Brown Act idea of this, and just try to hear what people are saying clearly and what process that you are actually proposing, or she was proposing. Okay.
Correct.
No, I'm going to say I didn't understand a word of that, so I would need that in English. Sorry.
She wants you to explain it again, please, very plainly, so she can understand what you're talking
We're
about.
just going to go through the steps so that everybody else can understand when I understand.
Do you want me to start with the first motion?
Yes.
Okay, Member Kayada made a motion to vote no on those two contracts that he mentioned and vote yes on the remainder of the contracts in 12.1A. Member Villa made an amended motion to pull those two contracts and not vote on them at all, yes or no, just to pull them and bring them back for action at a future meeting to allow those members with questions to get their questions answered between now and the next board meeting.
Okay, and then President Rhodes said something. Were you just clarifying what she just explained?
I just was trying to clarify for myself, for her in the public.
Okay, so
what Member Rhodes was clarifying is that between now and the next board meeting, it would be an individual board member or two, less than a quorum, would be able to get the information they need without violating the Brown Act.
So when do we do this meaning making together? Because if we're doing two buys, we're not really doing meaning making, we're just being spoken to about a particular process. So I mean, do we have any consideration for a workshop to talk about these things? Just asking. Maybe the superintendent can help me with that.
Member Phillips, you're asking for the difference between a two-by versus a board workshop that is focused on, beyond these two contracts, a discussion about transparency as it relates to these types of agreements?
I mean, the transparency issue that we have is that things might be getting past us on the consent agenda.
Okay.
And so I know it would probably make meetings go longer if we were to look at each and every one of these. And obviously, we can do it this way on consent agenda. But I'm going to have to agree with what Member Kayada said, because, well, and agree with him with the exception of the fact that he's recommending a no vote, but we don't have the information. Member Villa is saying we need the information, we need to have 2x2s. Then we come back and we have a discussion, and then we vote again on those two items. Are they going to be on consent agenda, or are they just going to be separate like we had them before? We'd have to pull them, right? If we're going to vote on them separately, because after we discuss and have the 2x2s, they're going to go back on consent agenda.
They could go on as a separate action item if it can be for discussion, it can be on consent. If there's no discussion, it can get pulled for discussion. It could be a separate action item.
Okay, so I'm going to hate to have to add a modification to Villa. Would be that we take them off, maybe we don't vote no, but we have 2x, and then when we bring them back, they are separate action items on the next agenda.
And I think that, oh, sorry for intervening. I think executive committee, we can have a conversation about agendizing that.
Okay, but that kind of makes sense to me now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to come back to this at a later time, but I do understand that we need to know if scads of money are coming out, then we need to be able to know what we're paying for. But is this a personnel issue? Is there a reason why we can't have the discussion at the dais about this?
You can have a discussion at the dais about it. It's agendized and it's been pulled, so there can be appropriate discussion about this item. I think there may be questions that there may be backup documents, there may be backup information that staff needs to pull together to give a more comprehensive answer for some of these questions, and maybe that would be something that would be more appropriate at a future meeting.
Right, I'm not talking about discussing today. So, okay. Okay, Member Phillips understands. Sorry.
Okay, and let's go to Member Singh.
I can't. I just want to mention, at least in my hearing of it, I didn't hear a personal reason for why Member Kayada is recommending what he's recommending. I think there's also a presumption that we're not aware of what we're doing. And I do think that it's very clear that in the case of transparency and what we're trying to do for the community, and make sure that we're actually addressing the fact that we have great staff. We're addressing the fact that we have very capable people who are here. Unfortunately, y'all don't get to talk unless we ask you certain questions, but we have folks who can do these jobs. And I think that's what Member Kayada is bringing up. We have folks who can get this stuff done. We have board members who are willing to work with labor partners. We have board members who are willing to go into those rooms and sit down and listen and talk. Give us the opportunity to do our job. That's what we were elected to do, to be in these positions, to talk to people, to discuss, to be in positions of power where the community is putting that position, putting us in that position. As much as we now want to say, oh, we should have a conversation, we were 5 seconds away from passing this entire thing on consent agenda. So while I really understand that we're saying, oh, let's have a 2x2, and that's might be where we end up, had this not been brought up, we would have just passed it on consent agenda, and no one had thought about a 2x2 before this board meeting. So I also want to address that if we're going to talk about 2x2s, we could have had those 2x2s, and then we would have been here. But it's only because we're pulling this, possibly pulling this, and saying that we may say no to these two contracts. Now we want to do a 2x2. So I just want to put it out there. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a vote, so I'll follow the process as long as no one else is left to talk.
Thank you, Member Singh. Now we have Member Kayada, it seems like. Yeah.
So to the extent that Member Villa's motion could be considered a friendly motion or a friendly amendment to mine, I would accept it. Not voting no, just holding those two for later. I'm not opposed to two buys. I do think it needs to be public, but if that's what you would like to propose, I'm fine with that. I think it's ultimately in the interest for us to have this conversation publicly. And like I said in the beginning, I'm not necessarily trying to hash this out for 15 minutes over every little contract, even though this is hundreds of thousands of dollars. My concern more is that us and the public should have the information to know that this is money we need to spend. So that's what I'm saying is put it in the packet. We don't necessarily need to talk about it, but I didn't see here today enough to vote on these two. In terms of Member Villa's comment about any personal feelings I might have towards a certain labor negotiator, I don't have strong personal feelings. I was represented by the union at the time. I didn't like what was happening, not to challenge any of her credibility. I just need to see more. And I want to clarify that if, anyone knows her. I don't have any problem with her personally. I don't know her. To the extent that my previous relationship is having been represented by her is a conflict, I'm happy to recuse myself from that vote. So.
Okay, so it sounds like we have a second to your original amendment, Member Villa. And we have some more people here. We have, wait a second. It looks like, there we go. Member Jean, hello. There are a lot of people.
Hello. So I'm probably going to say something a little odd, but I'm just incredibly excited right now because I feel like this conversation and the perspectives that are being shared demonstrate the willingness of all of us to really get into this and do the work. I think too, and thank you, Member Kayada, for pulling this and encouraging us to have this conversation. It's demonstrating that there's a desire for change, that the way the district has done business has been successful in some ways and not in others. And our recent elections showed that our community is interested in seeing changes happen and getting new voices into room and new perspectives into conversations. And I'm excited to be a part of all of that. I do believe in the importance of knowing why we are where we are. So I agree that getting some additional information on this is important. And I was actually going to second let's table these two so that we can get more additional information and have the conversations we need before we make an official decision. I too am concerned that we use consultants and legal folks to interact with our employees. I feel like we want our employees to, like our district admin and our labor partners, to be able to collaborate and work together and in partnership. That if we're not working together, we tend to be fighting each other, and that's not good for kids. And so I too am hesitant and concerned, but I want additional information before I make an official decision, particularly one that would drastically change how things have been done, knowing that might be what we need to do. But we as a board need to be clear and aware if we're giving that direction to the district, where that's coming from and what those ramifications are and all of those layers to it. So I'm very much on board with tabling those two items. The second piece of it, and this might just be a newbie thing, but in looking at the list of all the items that got put into this, like just 1A, we're looking at grants and entitlements and agreements and others and bids and surplus. That feels like a lot in one item. So I would love some information as to why we tend to clump them all together, particularly when there's this much money going out for those. So that would be a request for information there. In addition to the two that we're going to be looking at a little more closely.
Then would you would it be appropriate to request a to-buy around that function, maybe from Rose?
Well, thank you that was the second thing I wanted to say. I appreciate the 2-bys in terms of it's a great mechanism for us to gain information and learn. And that's been very, very helpful this last month on a variety of topics, everything from student suspension and expulsion to school safety to special education. And in hearing all of those, the work that's happening. I'm also concerned because the public doesn't know what we're doing when we're getting that info. And as Member Phillips pointed out, it doesn't lead to conversation or consensus building. It doesn't allow everybody to get perspectives into the room about these issues. It's more of I gathered information, where do I come from? And unless it's agendized, then we don't talk about it. So to me, it's important for us to start having these conversations with transparency and in public. But we need the information to then be able to come. And I'm also a big favor of let's be efficient and let's value time because we don't all want to be here till midnight every time we need to talk about something, right? So how do we find that balance and how do we grow as a board to ensure that we are transparent, that we are efficient, that we are effective, that we are informed, and that we make the decisions that our students need us to make and deserve to have us make for them?
Appreciate that. And if we can set up something that can help inform, but then also we can, if need be, also have a conversation maybe with the ZEC committee around what does it look like to inform the community around how consent agenda or items are placed that way. So let's talk and see how we can do that well. Thank you for that. So we have a motion and a second. Superintendent, can you take roll call?
Member Jean?
I'm sorry, we were chatting. So we are voting to approve everything except these two that will be tabled to a later date. Aye.
Member Kayada? Member Phillips?
Aye.
Member Rhodes?
Aye.
Member Singh? Member Villa?
Aye.
And then student preferential?
Aye.
Is that everyone? Okay. So we have, that ends our meeting for tonight. And then we have our special board meeting. But wait, there's more, guys. So